Great Tuesday morning to you, everybody. Welcome back to your new midday hang. Annie and Elsten are on the air on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Halbrin's here in studio, along with Braden Suprenant. I'm Craig Elsten, thrilled to be here with you as well. Annie, good morning.
Good morning, Craig. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I was watching you hovering over the on button.
Yes. Right? I didn't want to press it too fast.
Well, I mean, it's cool. I didn't think you were going to spontaneously curse right while I was talking. It's all good. We're here. We've got 4 hours. Last 4-hour show until Friday. Because tomorrow, 2-hour show, day baseball, Padres and Cardinals coming up at 10 p.m. tomorrow. Today, 6:40. Game 2 of the 3-game set tomorrow, 1:10. And then Thursday, while we have a full show, the first hour will be the Roundtable.
Oh, yes.
The 97.3 The Fan Roundtable presented by Roundtable Pizza. And we'll have everyone apparently except Woodsy here on Thursday. Woodsy has figured out that if he books appointments on Thursdays, like medical appointments on Thursdays at 10 a.m., you can get out of the Roundtable, which is smart.
I mean, I'm not going to say that he did that on purpose, but I'm going to say that he is rightly so not changing his appointment.
Yeah.
To make them, because you know what? There'll be 7 other people there. And although we'll miss Woodsy, he's got like a whole season to do them.
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
He'll have the whole 4 hours prior to let us know
exactly all his thoughts. Right.
What he thinks about the day. So all of that's happening in the next couple of days. But that means today's regular show. Got a full 4-hour show for you today. Looking forward to it. Plenty to discuss. All of our regular segments coming up as well as we roll through to Gwen and Chris at 2:00. Now, yesterday, in form or fashion, different for all three of us. I think all three of us were at the ball game yesterday. I heard Braden say that.
I was there.
You StubHub some cheap seats? Is that what happened?
Yeah, I went on. Softball got canceled last night due to the fields not being up to par after the weekend of raining. Then I was like, texted one of my buddies. I was like, "Do you want to go to the Padre game?" He's like, "You got tickets?" I said, "I can look for some," and I found some pretty good seats in the Premier section for $40, which was awesome.
Nice.
So, cashed in on those.
That's great.
Ended up realizing that some of our own seats at Odyssey were open in section 101, so I ended up staying in section 101 for the ball game. That was nice little $44 purchase right there, plus parking. It was great.
Love it. Now, press box
for me. And Sam was up there. Frank Marchese was up there.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good.
I saw Sammy at Board and Brew last night.
Solid.
Walking through.
Premier seats are good though. That's pretty nice. Yeah. And then I assume you're in your
regular season seats, section 307. Nothing fancy about it.
But your regular season seats. That's great.
Regular season seats. Went with one of our big patrons for Padres Hot Tub. Went to Bottle Rocket first. Watched Iowa LSU, just like I told you I would do on the show. And then walked on down. And full disclosure, stayed right until I saw Stephen Kolek warming up. Down 6-1. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and with 60% of the precincts reporting, I'm going to declare this race. And I'm going to head to the car.
Wow.
It's an 0.8 of a mile walk back to the car. And then when I got there, I took a look through the window and said, did I miss something? Mm-hmm. And the answer was no. And then I got in the car and I listened on the way home. 6-2 was the final last night. And I think there's 2 things to discuss from yesterday's game. There's the starting pitcher and there's the offense. Nothing else is really descript from the game, but the starting pitcher and the club's approach to Kyle Gibson, I think, are the 2 things that we can talk about. And, apparently the drone show was good. Did anyone stay for the drone show?
I wasn't there for the drone show, but I saw the pictures. It looked pretty cool. Better than a fireworks show, in my opinion. And did you see that they were all the drones were lined up on the wiffle ball field?
Yes.
So you couldn't use the wiffle ball field, but they were all there like perfectly, in their rows.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Like I would like to see how it all goes down, but it was cool.
Robotics scare me.
Well,
just seeing that whole field of drones.
Yeah, then they all lift off, and then they all
Craig's
make their cool.
Craig's ready to be in the iRobot movie.
I mean, listen, I grew up watching the Terminator movies. All right, I know that these machines turn on us at some point.
they turn into like big aliens, and they start lifting us up.
They just start shooting us from their drone spot. All right.
Especially like they had one, like they made Manny Machado blowing his bubble gum.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was really cool. And I was like, oh, but then you expected Manny to just like pop out. You know what I mean? Be like a humongous Manny stepping on all of us.
Amazing. All right. So I want to start with Waldron because I've said a lot of nice things about Matt Waldron on the show. I still back the player. And I think there's a huge difference between looking at the box score of what Matt Waldron did last night and watching the game, and seeing as all three of us were there watching the game. I'd love to get your perspectives as to if you saw what I saw while I was watching the game, because what I saw, you can go look this up. Matt Waldron got to 2 strikes on essentially every hitter in the game. Like he was 1-2, 0-2, 2-2 on everybody. He really was flummoxing the Cardinals with the knuckleball, which he threw much more in yesterday's start than he had in any of his other appearances as a San Diego Padre. We were looking at the StatCast stuff in the stands, and he was throwing it somewhere between 40 and 50% of the time last night. So really going to that knuckleball. It was quite effective. You know it's effective when Luis Camposano can't catch it, which happened over and over again.
That looked a little frightening at the beginning of the game, especially because it was like, oh, there's going to be a wild pitch, there's going to be a pass ball, and there was, and it mattered in that first. I mean, I don't think it was the whole story at the end of the night, but it did come to fruition when that guy ran home.
Yeah, I mean, there's the one that went right down the middle that Louis dropped for the pass ball. There were other ones that he wrestled to the ground, falling to his left like a goalkeeper in soccer.
It's no joke. I remember Bob Melvin talking about it from the catcher perspective last year. And because the knuckleball is great, we talk about the knuckleball. Oh my gosh, no one sees that pitch. But catching it is a whole, because you don't know where it's going. You have no idea where this thing is going to land. Yep. And you can't really frame for it or anything.
So he was floating it in 75 to 77, and he was effective. And then he would get to 2 strikes. And I get it. You're amped up. First start. You finally have grabbed a starting rotation job for the first time in your life. There's nothing more you want than to hang on to this job all year and forever, right? And I felt like he was overthrowing his knuckleball, especially in the first 2 innings. The 2-strike knuckleballs were coming in at 81, 82 miles an hour, and they had no knuckle on them. And I think it was as simple as overthrowing. Like, I'm really going to throw this knuckleball here, so I'm going to throw the hardest one I can. No, it's counterintuitive. You have to throw it softer. You have to let it go more gently in order for it to do maximum flutter. Instead, he was kind of over tossing it, and then they flattened out. And so Arenado hit one that flattened out for an RBI single. And then Contreras got another one that he overthrew, and it just stays up there. Pow! Smashed it over to the second palm tree beyond center field. So early, I'm like, oh no. Oh no. And then I thought he made a good adjustment as the game went on. He's like, they're sitting on my knuckleball on 2 strikes now. Now they are just thinking knuckleball. Clearly Goldschmidt, every time he was up, he was looking nothing but knuckle every time. And so Waldron would get him out with a 91-mile-an-hour fastball. And I thought the second time through the order, he did a much better job of sequencing to get people looking for his knuckler and then go, oop, sinker, got it past you. Oop, little fastball, get it past you. And I really wasn't that disappointed. In the end, yes, he gave up 8 hits in 4 innings. For some reason, Schulte let him try to start the 5th and face Arenado a 3rd time. Of course, that wasn't going to work. He got a hit. They took him out. But overall, a lot of the damage, I mean, everything came with 2 strikes. Like, I thought he was this close to having a pretty good start.
Yeah, I didn't think that he was, throw him out, bring in someone new. I didn't think that at all. I thought that he gave a serviceable start. He definitely did get knocked around a bit, but as the 5th starter, like, you got to give him a little bit of time also to get his feet under him. He is someone, if you talk to him, he doesn't want to be called a knuckleballer. We call him a knuckleballer, but he does not think he's a knuckleballer. He is a pitcher, a starting pitcher who throws a knuckleballer.
Right.
And so he doesn't want to be throwing this thing a majority of the time. He did end up throwing it 40 times out of 91 pitches last night. So yeah, 44%, more than any that he had done in his previous big league starts. He threw it a lot more early on. We saw it a lot more early on. And then his knuckleball would, like you said, it would flatten out. It would just lose that knuckling, and it would sort of, rise and flatten out. And then the hitter would put a swing on it, and that would be the end of it. So I think that, again, as your 5th starter, I'm worried about that 5th starter spot, but I would put the focus on the other, and I know we'll get to it, on the other people in the rotation, the other pitchers in the rotation, to see if they can be better the second time through. And then try to get a little bit more out of Matt Waldron in terms of, like you said, pitch mix and figuring out how and when to use that knuckleball and being just more of a starting pitcher instead of maybe just a knuckleballer. But, and again, that's the label we put on him, not that he puts on himself. But yeah, I mean, there were times that he was fine, and then there were times that he was getting hit all over the place.
Yeah. And he gave up some hard contact. I mean, even some of the outs were, pelted to center field, right field, big fly balls. So it was a shaky ride, to be sure. And maybe I'm watching it as a Cauldron apologist, but I really do think that the mix works. The mix can work in the big leagues. And as you said, he's not Phil Niekro, right? But plenty of good knuckleball pitchers had more than a knuckleball. R.A. Dickey didn't just throw the knuckleball. Tom Candiotti had a fastball and a curveball and the knuckleball. And he used those throughout his career, whether he was in Cleveland, L.A., Toronto, what have you. So what I like is that, as Drew says in the chat, a 91-mile-an-hour fastball is generally smashable, and we'll get back to that when we talk about Kyle Gibson. But 91 coming off of 77 all of a sudden looks fast. And if you do the right placement, it winds up being a very useful pitch. Yeah,
and then being able to mix those pitches to his advantage, like, you could see that working. And so, again, it wasn't obviously this guy's best. It was not Matt Waldron's best start. It was not a start that he's going to, write home about in terms of, man, I just had my stuff that day. Everything was working for me. I think it's too early to say exactly what he's going to be, but that's kind of what you would expect from that 5th spot where they didn't have someone. And look, most rotations don't. It's probably, I don't know. I wouldn't say every team out there has their 4 and 5 starters exactly how they want them. A lot of times you are taking a risk with your 4th starter or your 5th starter or both. But I want to see him again. I want to see him again because he did make an adjustment. And so that's good. You're able to adjust in game. So let's see now for the second time out how you can adjust again.
He even got a little bit of the way a third time through the order, which is something I've said on the show I don't want them to do. Like, I'd like Waldron to face 18 hitters usually and get out. Now, the problem is he faced like 7 or 8 hitters in the first inning. So it definitely shortens your start. And they were trying to get some length out of him. But in the end, he was over 90 pitches after 4 innings.
Right. And that's the thing, like, the efficiency and how that's going to go over time. Like, you're going to want to be able to go a little deeper into the game, be more efficient with your pitches. But it was striking, and I'm sure we will get into it down the road with what is his name? Gibson, right? Kyle Gibson. It was striking because the Cardinals had gone through, I think, almost in their entire lineup in that first inning. Maybe they batted around. I don't know.
It was close.
It was close. Yeah. Okay, I don't think they batted around, but then the Padres, it was like 3.
Yeah.
And it took a while to even reach Jackson Merrill, and so you see just kind of the difference in the 2 pitchers that you saw last night.
Yeah, let's take a break because that's the other side of the discussion from yesterday's game. It's what happened on the mound, and of course we can branch out from that to what's happened on the mound through 7 games for San Diego. Certainly not where the Padres want to be.
Can I just say one more thing? It's not Campusano's fault. I'm seeing something in the chat. It's not Campusano, it's hard to catch a knuckleball. It's hard for any catcher. You can work on it, you can practice it, but because it lands somewhere else every time, it can be very difficult to catch. So that's part of being a knuckleballer. Like, you've got to take the fact that you're going to have some pass balls, you're going to have some wild pitches, you're going to have, because it just kind of comes with the territory.
What was the name? I always forget his name. I've banished it from my mind. The Red Sox catcher. We got him and traded him away. This was 2006 for Josh Bard, because Josh Bard couldn't catch Tim Wakefield's knuckleball. And
I don't know.
Oh boy, I gotta remember it. This was like he made a very short, very bad impression on San Diego Padres fans, but he was Tim Wakefield's Doug Mirabelli.
Traded by the Red Sox to the Padres for Mark Loretta during the offseason. Was experienced at catching Tim Wakefield.
And then we traded him back for Josh Bard. And then Josh Bard was terrific.
I saw Mark Loretta yesterday, but go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole thing. Like, literally, the Red Sox had the preeminent knuckleballer in the game, and he was useless because the catcher couldn't catch the ball. Like, just couldn't catch the ball.
Right. And you can, they'll work on it. It's something you work on, but it's difficult to catch.
It's unlike anything else you do.
Yeah.
As the catcher, the ball moves differently. You literally use a bigger, different catcher's mitt. So you're not accustomed to that either. And honestly, Doug Mirabelli. That was the guy. He made a really lousy impression while he was here for like 2 days too. Everyone was like, escort to Lindbergh Field. Get this guy out of here. And then Bard was great and was part of a division winner. So who knows what happens, but listen, it's going to be a struggle for Campy. It will be. It'll be a struggle if they put Higashioka back there. Unless you've got a lot of experience catching a knuckleball, it's going to flummox you every time it's really thrown well. Like the bad ones rotate or spin 2 or 3 times and are easy to catch. Unfortunately, they're also easy to hit.
Right. That was a problem. It was getting too much spin, too much rotation on those ones yesterday, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that got smacked.
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. That's what makes it, honestly, I feel like it's what makes it so romantic from a baseball standpoint.
It's old school.
It really is. It's a trust pitch. You hold it different than any other pitch. You release it different than any other pitch. And you have, everyone says once the ball leaves your hand, it's out of your control. But in this case, even more so, because when you throw a 4-seam fastball, you know the spin you're putting on the ball for it to ride to the top of the zone, right? When you're throwing a cutter, you know the side pressure you're on it and that it's supposed to move this way or that way. But the knuckleball, you literally never know. You're like, I'm going to let that go and let's see what happens this time. It's a new butterfly into the universe. Where does it land? And it's hard. You can't trust it. Even when a pitcher is great, the runners are like, well, I'm going to run all over this guy because he's throwing the knuckleball. The catcher is in a cold sweat half the time. And yet, it's a uniquely effective pitch that hitters cannot stand to face.
Oh, yeah. And especially, like you said, if you're working it in with the rest of that pitch mix, if you're working in with the fastball and everything, and it'll elude you. It'll completely elude you. Now, it did not elude last night, but it did at times. And then, right, when it wasn't working for Matt Waldron, it was definitely working for the Cardinal hitters.
Yeah. Hey, work in progress. Matt Waldron, a work in progress.
Yeah. And again, and we'll get to it, Craig. I am obviously, you're always concerned with like maybe the 5th spot or something in the rotation, but I'm focusing more on the rest of the rotation. I'm going to let Matt Waldron figure it out, or at least try again and work on some things, but he is the 5th starter in this rotation. He is not supposed to be your ace. He is supposed to give you a serviceable, solid start, and it's a cherry on the top if you get anything more from that. And hopefully you do, and hopefully you will. And Matt Waldron wants to give you that for sure, or whoever's in that 5th spot. But the rest of that rotation, that second time through, I think people want to see more.
Let's take a timeout. When we come back, speaking of wanting to see more, we certainly wanted to see more of the Padres offense at the plate last night. A lot of quick trips, not only in terms of quick half innings, but in terms of quick at-bats, something we definitely should chat about on the other side of this break. Talking a lot of Padre baseball, and of course, what's the beautiful thing about the season? We got another game tonight. Back to the top of the rotation. Yu Darvish is going out there for a 3rd time.
Yes.
So let's see if maybe all the rust is starting to shake out of this rotation, and the Padres are about ready to put their best foot forward. We are underway. Annie and Elsten roll until 2 o'clock here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie, Craig, and Braden here with you, 1026 on Annie and Elsten. Shout out to all of our great listeners. Met another one of them yesterday, Annie,
nice.
At Bottle Rocket. Shout out to Joe. Hope Joe is tuned in here this morning. A general contractor who says he's always in his car every day. He's always driving around, and he loves the show. I was there ordering my salad at Bottle Rocket, and he was like, "Hey, I got to pull you over here for a second." I was like, "Uh-oh." And then, so I love your guys' show. So really cool stuff.
Could have been like, "Hey, come around the corner." You know,
I mean,
you
never know, but
I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah. What are we gonna do?
Like
what are we gonna do around the corner?
Pause.
I was a construction, no, Joe. Thank you so much for being a listener of ours. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
you're not in the mafia, Joe.
I mean, that we know of. I mean, I only met him for a few minutes.
Yeah, you might be. And if so, you know what? Do your thing.
Yeah, listen, it's all good. So shout out Joe, shout out everybody who's found the show and who makes it a part of their middays. Thank you. Thank you so much. We absolutely appreciate it.
Braden with the pause.
Right.
Love it.
Pause.
Okay.
Yeah. I got to make a bet with Braden now, though, too, because Braden quietly sat by as I defended Matt Waldron's honor the first segment and then announced during the break that he doesn't think he'll be long for the team. So I'm here to bet you that Matt Waldron will pitch 80 innings.
Braden's ready to give his argument.
That's the bet that I will make with you.
The guy was poor in almost every single category of Baseball Savant. I mean, I watched him. He's just not that good. I mean, it was okay.
19 fouls, 9 swings and misses.
Oh, wow. 19 fouls and 9 swings and misses. At the end of the day, all that really matters is if you're giving up runs or you're not giving up runs. And he gave up runs. He got tagged. They were not surprised by his knuckleball. They saw it a couple times. They're like, oh, that's where it goes. Bang, Contreras over the fence. I was not encouraged by that outing. I know you can spin. It's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think. But you can't be excited after that outing, being like, oh, this guy's gonna be our 5th starter. He was not good. Here's the other thing too about him, not wanting to be called a knuckleballer. I got tough news for Matt Waldron. The only reason why you're in the pros right now is because you throw a knuckleball. I mean, that's seriously why he's in the bigs right now. It's not his sweeper. It's not his off-speed stuff. It's his knuckleball. It's not his sinker, his four-seamer, his sweeper, his cutter. It's his knuckleball.
You're right.
I mean, that's the only reason why he's there. I just have to warn Padres fans. Remember his first outing as a Padre?
I don't.
Fantastic. He was fantastic.
Right.
He went 6 innings. He was like mowing people down. You know who else was fantastic in his first ever outing? Ryan Weathers. Yeah, they didn't see him. I mean, look, watch these major league teams when they start seeing this guy and they start seeing this knuckleball they never see. They're going to make an adjustment. They're going to tag him. That's what the Cardinals did last night. I had a Cardinals fan texting me yesterday before the game. He said, you guys are going to kill us. We could not hit. We got our ass kicked in Los Angeles. And I said, well, easy there. Nothing helps out a ball club quite like the San Diego Padres sometimes. But that team last night was due to go on a nice little tear, but they could not hit worth a damn in Los Angeles, and they tagged Matt Waldron. They were not fooled at all.
I still think you give up. Yes, they hit him hard. I still think he gave up the 4 runs, right? That was in the first inning, right? That he gave up. No, he gave up 3 in the first,
3 in the first,
and then 1 in the second. You got 2 solo home runs from the Padres. I still think 4 runs, you can't as a team be out of it. Like you.
No, that's definitely a separate issue for sure.
Starting pitcher, and then he was able to at least, give him a few more innings, and then of course, Brito let up the 2 runs, but it wasn't like he gave up 8 runs in the first. And no. I get what you're saying, Braden, in terms of his knuckleball has to be part. He can't throw the knuckleball every pitch. He's got to have a repertoire. He's got to have some kind of pitch mix that works for him, right? But
there's a reason why he threw that a lot last night, because the Padres
it's
obviously
the differentiator.
Want him. That's the pitch that they want him to throw, because that's the pitch that's going to confuse some people and give them some fits.
Absolutely.
It's not his other pitches. Right. His other pitches are very easily taggable.
He's a AAA pitcher with his other pitches.
He is. Absolutely. And again, this is not they didn't lose the game last night because of Matt Waldron. I mean, the offense didn't show up. 100%. They didn't show up.
I think it speaks to a void in that rotation for the 5th spot in terms of no one necessarily running away with it. And again, this happens. This is not, the Padres are not the only ones with a number 5 starter that is questionable, right? But it is a void. It is a void.
Listen, I see the chat way overreacting as well. This is game 7. That was start 1. And as the apparently self-appointed Waldron apologist on the show, every run he gave up was with 2 outs. Almost every hit he gave up was with 2 strikes. And so if you'd like to look at it and say, well, he doesn't have a put away pitch. Okay, I get that. Let me take it to a broader point. All right. Because Matt Waldron came out and Johnny Brito came in. And don't think that when you're watching a kid warm up who's throwing 97 after you just watched a guy who's straight up trying to fool major league hitters, because if he just pipes it down the middle, he's going to get smashed. There's an immediate feeling in your body of like, oh, well, maybe this should be the guy. Like, this guy throws really hard. And then Brito came in throwing really hard, and he got tagged just as hard as Matt Waldron did, if not harder, and he couldn't stay in the game nearly as long as Matt Waldron did. So it's not an obvious answer, which draws me to the broader point. I think we really can see now, even just 7 games in, why, Annie, AJ Preller made the trade for Dylan Cease.
I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, imagine if he hadn't. Then you would be looking at a number 4 and 5 that is questionable, plus Michael King, who, again, could be able to go, as many innings as needed this year. But again, making a big jump in innings. And so we're not exactly sure how he will land yet in terms of how much he can pitch throughout the season, or what it's going to look like for him in the rotation. So, and that's nothing against King. He's making a jump from the bullpen into the starting rotation. So it's different, right? And I think for Waldron, exactly like it's just like the bullpen. They've got to figure out what they have. So you're probably going to let Waldron go again, maybe at least a time or 2, I would think, and see what adjustments can he make? What more can we get out of him? How much, what could he set up? Maybe you do go to the bullpen faster when he's giving you a start, but you can do that as long as your other starters in the rotation are giving you 6 innings. Or giving you deeper starts, and then you can save your bullpen a little bit for a day like when you have Matt Waldron.
And that's exactly right, Braden. What Annie's saying, I can't underline more. Like, this team is built on its starting rotation. That's what is going to make this team good. Run prevention, good starting pitching, a team that catches the ball, that catches all the balls that are there for them, and then enough hitting to get the job done. Now, is it a championship formula? We haven't sorted that yet. I'm just hoping for a winning team formula for this year's Padres. But I think it's fair to say, Braden, that so far there hasn't been one starter. I mean, I guess Yu's opening day start against the Giants is the closest thing we've had to a good start yet in 7 games. So it hasn't been good for any of the guys yet.
So we're just going to give everybody a pass. I mean,
it's the first time.
I am on this.
I am not convinced that Matt Waldron's going to be a member of the starting rotation throughout the entire season.
That's fine.
No, I don't think anyone in that 5th spot is going to last the whole season.
I was not
innings.
At least with some of the guys at the top of the rotation, you know what you're getting out of them. You know what you're going to get out of them. You can be a little bit more patient with those guys than you can with guys at the bottom of the rotation, because this is their only opportunity for a guy like Matt Waldron to be part of a rotation. He's due to pitch against the Giants and the Dodgers coming up. His next 2 stints in starts. I think you give him those 2 starts and we'll see what happens. I mean, I can't imagine the Dodgers not destroying him in 2 weeks from now on a Saturday. And again, it's not. I mean, he's doing.
You could say that about every pitcher on the team.
Yeah, but he's doing that. He's doing the best he can. But that he's just not. He's not a starter in a rotation that makes the playoffs. He's just not. I mean, I don't know why we're trying to elevate this guy like he's going to be great. I mean, I've seen last year. That was a good last year. He was okay. He's a good, serviceable. He's like Pedro Avila.
But a lot of times in the playoffs, you don't even need to go to your 4th or 5th starter. Like
do.
You can,
except
you
for
can move
except
that.
for 2022 when they did need to go to their 4th or 5th starter, and they got railed. They got smashed.
Yeah, Clevenger, terrible. Minaya,
so did Minaya. Awful.
I think you have to give him some time. Also, because who else do they have? I guess
I'm
you
not
could
saying
try
cutting him
Brito, you could try
now.
Vasquez, but you're going to have that same situation where you got to give them. Honestly, I'm using 2 to 3. I'm using 3 starts as an arbitrary number. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, whatever their number is to determine. But I do think like you sacrifice a little bit there, but you need your top of the rotation to hold it down.
Well, that's definitely true. The offense needs to give him some runs. I mean, that's. I mean,
Four,
again,
4 runs. It's not insurmountable.
No, it's not. I don't want to hear the attitude. It's like, oh well, we gave up the runs early, so we're done in the first inning. That's a cultural problem of your team. If that seems to be the case.
You can't say that there's fight in this team, and then you say, well, when your starting pitcher gives up 4 runs in the first,
it's
really,
such a downer. It blows. It takes the wind out of the sails.
And I don't know that they weren't. I think they were fighting or trying to get, obviously trying to get hits and get on base and do all that jazz. And of course, Jackson Merrill hits the home run, and Fernando Tatis Jr. hits the home run, and it's awesome. But yeah, they've got to be able to also come back in some of these games.
Oh, look at that. We just managed to manufacture a debate segment. And what I want to say is that we've got plenty to say about the offense of the club. We've got our Padres deep dive coming at 11. I think that's where we should slot that. And we'll chat more about the offense. Any pitcher, any player in baseball a week into the season, I'm not going to make a pronouncement about. Okay. Ronel Blanco is the 5th starter of the Astros. No one expected anything from Ronel Blanco. He just threw a no-hitter yesterday for the Astros' first win. That's a random result. All right. That happened. Is Ronel Blanco now an all-star pitcher? Do I think Ronel Blanco will win the Cy Young Award this year? Of course not. It's one start. And Matt Waldron had one start as well. I think he's going to be an average. This is all I've ever said. An average 5th starter in big league baseball. And guess what? Average 5th starters in big league baseball sometimes go 4 innings and give up 4 runs. That's something that happens. It's in the range of their results. And sometimes they go 5 innings and give up 1 run. And that's a pretty cool result sometimes. And right now, I'm willing to see if the next 3 outings are all the same with a whip of 2 and an ERA of 9, then you will hear me on the show saying that someone else should be the 5th starter for the San Diego Padres. But one game, I saw plenty to work on.
I think it's a real possibility. I think we could see that 5th spot cycled quite a bit this season.
Could be a lot of young guys. Could be
bullpen days. Could be, I don't know that. Right. I'm not ready to write the book on Matt Waldron. I don't know that he's the answer for the full season or anything like that. But it's a predicament where these Padres are in.
Before the first hour is up, let's take a break, and I'd like to get to the other biggest story in the sports world yesterday, because it's one that actually we could talk multiple segments through. The good and the bad of Iowa LSU last night. A great game and some very interesting commentary afterwards as well. We'll chat about it as we roll forward. Annie and Elsten here till 2 o'clock on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:45 on the Fan. Annie and Elsten here with you. Annie Halbrin, Craig Elsten, Braden Suprenant. Padres Deep Dive coming up at 11 a.m. We will continue our Padres discussion. It really never stops on the show. I think we have the highest percentage of minutes devoted to Padres baseball. Like if we had a fan graphs for 97.3 The Fan.
We should ask Fangraphs to do that.
Yeah.
Be like, can you algorithm-y it?
Algorithm-y it. Yeah. Can you give us an algorithm-y thing?
Yes.
That's Annie's favorite word.
Algorithm-y
thing.
That's one of my favorites now, too.
You algorithm-y our Padres talk. Even when we try to go away from the Padres, we come back to the Padres.
We lean right back. I know.
As we should.
Well, that is our sports team, and that is our flagship station.
Indeed. Yes. Indeed. And we will. And so shall we in just minutes. In just minutes, we'll be right back with an 11 a.m. deep dive. Yesterday on the show, I think we laid it out. There were two big stories, at least from our perspective in sports. In the national perspective, there was one big story in sports yesterday, and that was the Women's Elite Eight, the battle for the Final Four, but specifically Iowa versus LSU. Now, UConn USC to follow was a great game as well and was filled with stars and excitement as well.
Local stars.
Indeed. Nice.
Ice Brady.
However, the national story, without question, was Iowa LSU. These two teams met for the national championship last year. Caitlin Clark has a star gravity that is all her own. She has a gravitational pull in the sports world. Everyone wants to see what she's going to do. And LSU was the team that beat Iowa in the national championship game last year, with Angel Reese outplaying Caitlin Clark and then giving her very famously the ring finger. Hey, ring's coming over here, not over there. Call it what you would. Some people thought it was a terrible taunt. Others thought it was incredibly cool because she kind of owned the moment and she rose up. It wasn't about her. And then she said, no, y'all forgot about Angel Reese. Like, that was what last year was. So this year was the rematch, and LSU did not have the same kind of season that they did last year because they were the 3 seed. They weren't a 1 seed. They had to run into Iowa in the Elite Eight instead of the Final Four. First thing was, I thought it was really cool. Went down to, my favorite downtown haunt, Bottle Rocket, yesterday before the game. And there were people who were coming in asking the bar, hey, can we put on the LSU Iowa game? Not even me, like just other people, just people wanted to come and watch this basketball game. I thought that was really cool. Then I thought it was a really good game. Yeah. It was tied at the half. LSU looked like the better team for periods of time because the Tigers had better post play. And Reese is a big player. And when she is running the court and getting her post position, like if they got her the ball, that was it. She was going to score every single time. She could block shots. She could get rebounds on the other end. And at the beginning of the game, Iowa was hitting every three, like not just Caitlin Clark, but all of the perimeter players were hitting every three that they could hit. That started to fade. LSU took the lead, got back to the half. Iowa took control in the third quarter. But what I thought was so cool, Annie, was watching Caitlin Clark's performance, because what do we know? Like when I say Caitlin Clark, what do you think about?
She's amazing.
But like threes, right?
Yeah,
like
threes and her span and the way that she's able to shoot them. Yeah.
Yeah, like logo threes. Like she shoots 35 footers.
Like Curry.
Right, like Curry. And so what we think about her is almost a, not ball hog, but like ball in her hands, putting up the shot,
right.
shot. And LSU was playing her tight. Of course, they were playing her tight. And Caitlin Clark, I am telling you, she came into this game saying, I'm not Michael Jordan, I'm Magic Johnson. Now, she probably used more modern than a 51-year-old like me who would go right back to Magic and Michael. But it was like, I'm not shoot always Kobe, like boom, 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 boom. I am more modern, Steve Nash. I'm going to look to pass. And Caitlin Clark was looking to pass the whole game.
The assists just kept on rolling.
12 assists, pinpoint passes, dribble drive with the intention of drawing to and not forcing a shot, but turning around and whipping a pass right to the center at the free throw line to rise up and drop one in. And she let her shots come purely in the flow of the game. There was nothing forced. There was nothing reckless, nothing that was like jammed up into a double team, but I'm just going to rise up anyway, or I'm going to get mixed up and get a turnover because I'm trying too hard. She was pinpoint, boom, boom, boom. Bounce passes, transition passes, hit ahead passes. Like she was flipping that ball out of her hand as fast as she possibly could. And then if it came back to her, cool. And she hit 9 3-pointers along the way, had 41 points, even though she was looking to pass the whole time.
It's a professional right there.
Oh my God, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was really, really exciting and fun. And she is just a remarkable basketball player.
I didn't catch the entire game, every minute of the game. I caught parts of it. I was at the ballpark. We had it on the press box, and it was, to me, up and down the court, up and down the court, up and down the court. Both teams just move. Like, it was so competitive. It was everything that it had been promised to be, in my opinion. And I loved Caitlin Clark. You just nailed it. I mean, this is why she is so good, and she finessed her game yesterday, right? Like, and Angel Reese, though, I thought also, LSU is good. That team is good. Angel Reese is an amazing player too. And I thought this sport is so much better for having both of them, and having them playing against each other. And I loved, after the game, they gave each other a hug, and that was caught on camera. And Angel Reese, she had that emotional post game, but she was asked what Caitlin said to her. And she said, Caitlin told me to continue to be a great player, and that she told her continue to be a great player and keep elevating the game. And just the fact that the two of them competitive, sure, both wanting to win, but a lot of love and respect for each other as being at the height of their game in their careers and elevating the women's game in college basketball to such new levels. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Well, and you brought it up, and I do you have that sound, Braden?
Yeah.
Great. Because Angel Reese afterwards was very emotional on the post-game podium, because she has had to hold in a year's worth of attacks that have taken place because of that moment,
right?
Because of that. And honestly, I remember being at the bar yesterday, and like a couple people around who didn't know what was going on, and like had no idea why all these people were watching a women's game. And so, like, I give them like the elevator pitch version. And as soon as I got to this on the YouTube channel, they can see me pointing at my ring finger. People were like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like, they didn't remember even that it was LSU and Iowa, but they remembered that moment.
The beef.
Right, because that picture was in all of their feeds.
It was viral.
Right, it was everywhere. It was in your Twitter feed, your Instagram feed, wherever it was, you saw that picture. So Angel Reese, who, of course, LSU, they had a fine season. But afterward, here's what she had to say.
I have great teammates. I have a great support system. I got my hometown. I got my family that stands up for me. I don't really get to speak out on things just because I just try to ignore, and I just try to stand strong. Like, I've been through so much. I've seen so much. I've been attacked so many times. Death threats. I've been sexualized. I've been threatened. I've been so many things, and I've stood strong every single time. And I just try to stand strong for my teammates, because I don't want them to see me down and like not be there for them. So I just want to always just know, like, I'm still a human. Like, all this has happened since I won the national championship. And I said the other day, I haven't had peace since then. And it sucks. But I still wouldn't change. I wouldn't change anything. And I would still sit here and say, like, I'm unapologetically me. I'm going to always leave that mark and be who I am and stand on that. And hopefully the little girls that look up to me, and hopefully I give them some type of inspiration that, hopefully it's not this hard and all the things that come at you, but keep being who you are. Keep waking up every day. Keep being motivated, staying who you are, staying 10 toes, don't back down, and just be confident.
Oh, man.
Let me tell you something.
Angel Reese right there.
So much respect.
What a powerful message, too. And
And she's right. I mean, what's happened since then and the way that, social media, look, she's 21 years old.
Yeah.
She's 21 years old. She's going to be on social media. She's going to see everything, hear everything. I'm sure it wasn't even just social media. It was letters, it was calls, it was things. It was, when you're out in public and people say something or people think they know you. And she still just went out and played her game.
Yeah. And that's it, and like, it's impossible to relate to somebody who's in it to that level, who is getting it from all angles, who puts up a post and immediately has 3,000 replies in a minute, because that's the level that you have achieved in the social hierarchy, that everyone's algorithmy thing puts your tweet in front of them. But there's such a difference between the online world filled with venom and hate and unnecessary, just disgusting behavior, and real human beings. And Angel Reese has had to deal with that for an entire year of just that garbage. And to stay through it, big shouts to Angel Reese. All right, we'll come back next, hour number 2 of the program, back into our Padres deep dive. We talked a lot about the pitching in the first hour. We're going to talk a lot about the hitting coming up in the next couple of segments. So stay right there. Annie and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Back with you for hour number 2. Welcome back, everybody. Sun shining in San Diego. Your midday hang is on a roll. It's Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrun's here. Braden Soprenet as well. Craig Elsten with you. Thrilled to be here till 2 o'clock when Gwen and Chris take over on this multimedia operation that we do here on 97.3 The Fan. We are, of course, on radio on 97.3 FM. So welcome to everyone listening to us in your car or in your headset, out doing chores outside. Maybe you're that general contractor going between jobs. Welcome to you. To anyone who's listening to us on the app, welcome. Odyssey app streams us live, AUDACY. Download it, and you can find not only us, but any of our nationwide network of radio stations, of local stations that you can tune into and listen live. Of course, we're a podcast as well. So hello to everybody listening to us in the future. Greetings from the past, where it was sunny at 11:01 a.m. We are happy to have you along with us. And if you're there on a podcast platform and want to drop us a 5-star review, even a kind little written note, it only helps the algorithmy things to further expose the show to different listeners. And of course, last but certainly not least, our ever-growing, ever-burgeoning online video live audience on YouTube, where we are a 4-hour streaming show as well, a 4-hour video show. We are on the 97.3 The Fan webpage on YouTube. So find that, subscribe to it. And if you are there right now, do us the favor. If you're in the chat, why don't we all click like together? 3, 2, 1, smash. Boom. I did it myself. Okay, there we are.
Thanks, everyone.
There we are. I'd like to remind everyone. Go ahead.
Well, just a little, it's breaking-ish news, but it's not about the Padres. The Dodgers have claimed outfielder Taylor Trammell.
What's going on with the Dodgers?
He was in the conversation for the Padres a little bit. I think The Athletic or Dennis Lynn, someone had him in the conversation for the Padres. The Dodgers have claimed, so they had Nabil Crismatt.
Yes.
Then Dinelson Lamet.
Right. Now Trammell.
Trammell, but there's also, Pomerantz.
Yeah, Drew Pomerantz.
Drew Pomerantz.
Yeah, what are they doing?
Yes.
They're signing all our cast-offs. This is wild.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Lamet for the other guy. I was like, for Crismatt.
When you saw the roster move yesterday,
I'm like, holy cow.
I was said like 3 years ago, you showed that to a Padres fan, they'd be like, what?
Right.
The Bill Crismatt has been designated for assignment. The Dodgers have activated the Nelson Lamet.
The Nelson Lamet.
Yeah,
Man,
blast from the past.
It was just 4 years ago, we thought he was the ace of the team, like the future ace of the San Diego Padres. How good was he in 2020? 99 with a wild slider. Like, he was a dominant starting pitcher in 2020. He wasn't just good. He was dominant. He got hurt. He has never been the same since.
Yeah.
He decided not to get surgery, remember?
I do remember.
He wanted to do the injections instead, and that obviously might be a career decider right there.
It's also when you have that kind of velocity, it's just a matter of time, I feel like, before your
slide pieces. You only got so many sliders in your elbow.
Exactly.
That's not a pitch you want to throw all the time. That's why I was like, when you watch Joe Musgrove a couple years, he kept going slider, and it's just like it's just a ticking time bomb when you throw sliders. It's not a good pitch for your elbow.
It is not. And if Dinelson Lamet is good for the Dodgers, I will throw up in my mouth at least a little bit. But I was worried about that when he was a Rocky, and he was no good as a Rocky. And then wherever else he's been, he's not done anything since.
There's a major difference with everything you just said.
Now he's a Dodger.
The Los Angeles Dodgers,
who
are notorious.
Dinelson Lamet, Taylor Trammell, but I keep wanting to say Mike Pomerantz, Drew Pomerantz.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny. I'm like, how are you going to use it? I guess they're going to pitch like in maybe a blowout loss or something, and then be DFA the next day?
They obviously think those guys all have talent when watching them in the division, and they obviously are sending the message of we can make these guys play to their potential. That's the message that they're sending us right now. It's like. They might not have worked out for you guys, but we could definitely get the best out of these guys. I mean, they pick up so many Padres all the time.
Drew Pomerantz right now in the process of letting the trainer know that his neck feels a little stiff.
And he needs another ice cream.
might need a little
I don't
time
know.
on the
Drew
table.
Pomerantz, the way that goes sometimes, he might end up being their,
I refuse.
They're legit
refuse.
reliever. They're legit lefty that, all of a sudden has a resurgence, comeback player of the year.
I totally think Taylor Trammell will be an all-star now for no reason.
I would tear my hair out, but there's not enough to tear out. But
enough about the Dodgers.
Yes,
we
enough
have
about.
to concentrate on the team in San Diego. Who there's enough to talk about there.
Hey, listen, all the Dodgers want to do is collect their old spare parts.
Right,
it's wild, like a curio collector.
Good luck with that, guys.
Look at all these fun things. Can I interest you in Davy Cruz, Dodgers?
They took Davy Lopes from us,
too. How about Corey DeHaan? Would you like Corey DeHaan? I've got a good Corey DeHaan for you. Okay, back to our beloved Padres. We spent a good part of the first hour talking about one half of yesterday's 6-2 loss to the St. Louis Cardinals, which was Matt Waldron. Not a great start, his first time out. Funhouse mirror, how do you want to look at it? Is he horrible and sent to immediately disappear, or is he pretty decent and things to work on, things to build upon in his first start? We talked about the bullpen a little bit. It remains a problem. Look, I mean,
that's shocking to me, by the way. I thought going into the season, their bullpen was going to be their biggest asset, and they have just been bleh.
I think what happened is they completed their bullpen. They got pieces, but just the mystery around the pieces is
how you use them,
right?
How to use them,
and how some of them are going to transition, play. Usak Go is in the minor leagues right now working on things, and Steven Wilson traded, and just different things happening in there. Yeah.
So I just looked it up, and so far Steven Wilson has thrown 1 2/3 innings for the White Sox with an ERA of 5.5. So, we didn't give up Aki Otsuka here. All right, we didn't give up Scott Linebrings, like some elite setup man to get Dylan Cease.
As much as we talk about like when guys go to the Dodgers, they get better. I feel like when guys go to the White Sox, they just disappear. Ends their career. The White Sox are a career ender.
Well, they can be, but there's one guy, actually, he pitched last night. Angel De Los Santos, to me, is right now the number 2 right-handed arm in this bullpen. I mean, Robert Suarez, we saved for the 9th. So, it's one thing. It's like, oh, who's your number 1 reliever? Well, it's Suarez, but he's our closer. So unless it's 2 outs in the 8th or the 9th inning, we're not going to see him. He's a situational pitcher. That means the next guy down is kind of like your most important everyday arm, the guy that could throw in any kind of game in a big situation. And right now, the one right-handed reliever who hasn't given up a run on this team is Angel De Los Santos. He threw his 4th scoreless outing yesterday. And look, in a meritocracy, I don't see any reason why he's not the right-handed leverage reliever right now for this team.
He probably is. And just the same way that I can't look at Steven Wilson and be like, well, he's this because he has a 5 ERA right now. I can't look at the rest of these pitchers in this bullpen and say that this is who they are for the rest of the season. I think that they've got to ride the hot hand until they learn something different.
He's got closing experience too with a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable with De Los Santos, and I was fired up when they ended up acquiring him during the offseason. That's a good bullpen piece. And, as of right now, I think you got to separate whoever your closer is from the rest of the bullpen in evaluation. So, yeah, he is the best arm in that bullpen that's not your closer right now. And, I think there's something to be said about guys that have closing experience that know how to pitch in high leverage situations. And he is my guy that if I need 3 outs, not in a save situation, I'm bringing in De Los Santos.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think right now the strength of this team's bullpen is its left-handed relief. Matsui, Peralta. Obviously, Schilt thinks very highly of Cosgrove because he is utilizing Cosgrove more than any other pitcher in his bullpen. Cosgrove just comes in every game almost.
Which might expose him.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, you got to, I think that some of it too is to let him work through some stuff. It's coming at the cost. I get it. Like it's coming at the cost of some of, maybe, I don't even know if it's coming at the cost of some of these games because I still feel like the offense could, fight back. And not that they're not fighting back, but you guys know what I mean. That game was still within reach yesterday is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I think you can't just shelve them. You can't just put them on the bench and be like, well, they're just not going to have anyone to pitch if they don't let anyone out of the bullpen to try to work through some stuff.
That's right. But we've talked a lot about the pitching staff. Let's switch to the other side. There's lots of position players we can talk about.
But I think when it comes to the rotation, I think what we're looking for in the second time around is a little bit more length.
For sure.
Like they've got to go a little bit deeper. I do give them a pass for this first turn through the rotation. I think they had a weird offseason, different from other teams around the league. But now at this point, the bullpen is not going to succeed coming in as much as they are right now.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're basically asking for the 2019 Padres, where the bullpen just gets destroyed.
This rotation has to get a more efficient, a little bit deeper.
I agree with you, Annie. That's 100% going to happen in the second and third time through.
It will, and that's why I don't, like we mention it, right? We bring it up, but it's we know what the strength of this team is. It's that starting rotation. It's having a 1 through 4 that's better than more teams 1 through 4. Could we say that the first time all the way through? No. No one pitched to their level. Darvish didn't get through the 6th. That's his level of expectation, is to get through the 6th and into the 7th inning. Didn't happen. Joe, hey, everyone who was blasting Matt Waldron from pillar to post for his performance last night, I'm here to tell you, Joe Musgrove did the exact same thing in the first inning of his last start against the Giants, which was he gave up hard contact and 3 runs and looked shaky as could be. And did he settle down and get into the 6th inning? He did. So cool, but still not to his standards. Dylan Cease, not close to his standards, going 4 innings. Michael King, 4 innings, 7 walks. Unbelievable. That's got to be, it's his career high. It's going to be his season high too. Like, don't look at that and go, oh, well, Michael King is going to walk everybody all year long. He had a weird start where control, close pitches, things were not clicking for Michael King in that game. So it's as simple as what do you talk about and what do you do? Right, Annie? We can talk about it all we want. What do? You do nothing. You put the same guys back out there and expect them to do better, and they will.
Yeah. At least you have to give them the benefit of the doubt and especially many of them there have a track record. You've got to let them go out there, work their magic, get through some stuff and kind of work through some of their own struggles a little bit early on in the season, just like anybody does in their own job. It's a long season. I know everyone hates hearing that, but it's a long season and it might take an outing or two to get to where that comfort level is. And I personally think you got to let them work through that.
Let's talk about the hitters though, because I think yesterday's game is one of those games that you can either look at it and say this is indicative of a trend that we do not want to see this season, or you can look at it as an individual data point, just an individual event. Kyle Gibson is a particular kind of pitcher, right? Kyle Gibson has never been able to dominate major league hitters. That's not who he is. He's not someone who's going to go out there and strike out 12 and give up, 2 hits in 7 innings. But Kyle Gibson throws strikes. He's a strike throwing machine. He is going to be on the plate all the time with, as we saw, 3 different versions of kind of the same pitch. He's got a fastball, a sinker, a cutter that all are between like 89 and 91 miles an hour. And then he threw a sweeper as well to try and get a right-hander to chase. And I have seen this not just this year, not just last year, but Annie, we've seen it throughout time. A veteran starter who is just plucking the corners, hitting his spots, and an offense that knows that the pitcher's going to be on the plate, comes in with an aggressive game plan. Mm-hmm. And when it doesn't work out, you get what we got last night, which is Kyle Gibson in the dugout after 3 innings, having faced 9 batters, given up 1 hit, perfect, essentially, going through. And he did it in like 30 pitches for 3 innings.
Only 2 walks for him. It was definitely a famine kind of attack there for the Padres in terms of what they were able to do or what they did against him. But is that acceptable to you?
Well, we're going to lose, right? Like every team is going to get beat by a veteran starter on a day. Yeah. Sometimes it's very easy for anybody, for all fans and for people who have microphones like us, to look at a game and assign meaning
to everything like, well, Kyle Gibson beat you, and that means you're bad. Bad team. You lost to Kyle Gibson. I look at it more on a human level, like our hitters got fooled last night. Our hitters got fooled by Kyle Gibson. They got lured into the smooth taste of 91-mile-an-hour pitches that they're like, I got that. I can crush that ball. And they were hitting Kyle Gibson's pitches. And did they hit some hard hit balls that were caught for outs? Of course they did. That's part of Kyle Gibson's style. Did he give up 2 home runs? He did. He's Kyle Gibson. He's going to be around the plate. And every once in a while, he's going to leave one up and someone's going to smash it. But he got through 7 innings last night. And what bothers me, or what I would bring up on the radio, is there was an impatience to last night's attack. And it's one thing, by the way, it's easy to say because you go, oh, well, be patient against Kyle Gibson. Okay, 0-1, 0-2. Well, now what am I supposed to do? I'm 0-2 in the Major League Batter's box. No one hits over 200 in this situation. The best hitters don't hit under 200. So what am I supposed to do there? He's going to pound the zone. But it's getting your pitch. Woodsy was talking about it this morning. It's getting that mistake and letting a strike go by because you want the better pitch to hit. And the Padres fell victim to that last night is what I would say.
Yeah. And obviously, like, I can certainly sit here and say on the radio, I've never played baseball. It's not like they were standing up there in the batter's box like, well, whatever. I just want to go sit back down in the dugout and eat some sunflower seeds. Like, no, they were absolutely trying to get a hit. They were absolutely using what they could to manufacture getting on base. But for sure, Gibson is a crafty veteran. He knows what he's doing. You can hat tip to him. And then you also want to see maybe an attack next time from the Padres that is maybe a little bit different. That is maybe, in the second time through, the third time through facing him, which I did think that they were getting to him a little bit, right, as they saw in the second or third time in terms of the walk and things like that. But you have to be able to, I guess, adjust as best you can against someone who is going to fill the zone. You're not going to get the walks that you want. You're not going to be able to just kind of wait for your for balls, essentially. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have to swing or look for the pitch that you want, So I think with the Padres, they have this narrative around them. And again, for Gibson, like 7 innings, by the way, that is no joke. This was his first start of the season.
Yeah.
First start of the season for the Cardinals for Gibson. And he went 7 innings. He reset their bullpen. Their bullpen was in shambles after that Dodgers series. And if the Padres would have been able to get to that bullpen last night, I think it would have been a different story. But because he was able to keep them in the game, he did his job. He did his job and then some. And so he reset the bullpen. For the Padres, I think that they're running against this narrative of, we have this offensive outburst one day, we win by 12 runs, then the next day we lose and it's a close game or we can only muster up a few runs. This might have been purely coincidental because of what you just said. It was Gibson. He did his job as the veteran that he is. But it's also just like they're going to have to disprove that narrative.
I agree. And I think folks in our chat are bringing it up, but if there's one moment in last night's game that distilled what wasn't working for the Padres, it was the 7th inning. Jurickson Profar, if there's one thing we know about Jurickson Profar, he treats every at-bat like a war.
I love it.
He really does. And listen, the way to get out Jurickson is to throw 91 down the middle because he'll normally pop that up or hit a ground ball to the second baseman. But teams try to pitch him and he battles. He will take every close pitch. He will work the count. He does that as well as anybody pretty much in the league. He doesn't get the results of some of the other grinders in the league, but he grinds as hard as anyone in the league. And in the 7th, when Gibson's got to be at whatever his rope is, the end of the rope, Profar grinds out a walk. He grinds out a 1-out walk, 7 or 8 pitches, really worked Gibson hard, got that ball 4, second walk he'd given up in the game. Campy comes up. Campy's been our best hitter this year. Campy's been our best hitter this year, and he hit a 1-pitch double play. He came up, he got just a little bit froggy. Was the ball in the zone? It was. That's what Gibson does. He throws sinkers at the bottom of the zone, and it's 91, and you think, I can crush this ball. And you do. You crush it to the shortstop on one hard bounce. And that's what happened. And it was a moment in time where you're like, okay, here's Profar grinding this at bat. Can't be boop, 1 pitch, 2 outs. Kim did it earlier in the game. Same thing. Guy got on, good at bat. Everyone's boop, double play. And it hurts. Also, that's what Gibson does. That's his style.
Right, exactly. It's that cat and mouse game where he's so good at it. Gibson is good at it. And that's what, he's been able to do. And they really needed to get some balls into the gaps. They really need to, you just kind of have to work him down in terms of just getting on base and moving it along. But so Gibson is really good. And then I also think if you're going to look at it from a constructive criticism from the Padres angle, well, they've talked about how every at-bat is a situation. Every at-bat. And that speaks to what Jurickson was able to do. That was a situation for Jurickson, and that's how he is pretty much all of the time. And so that's kind of how you have to look at it. If you're going to kind of, look at it from the Padres angle, well, were you guys going with that approach? Was every at-bat a situation? Were you able to wait for that mistake pitch? Or maybe be a little bit more patient. And I also understand, like you said, the aggression. You got to be aggressive because he's going to throw it in the zone, and you're going to be walking back to the dugout if you don't, look for a pitch to hit.
They only had 2 full counts last night.
That's wild.
Only 2 full counts, and there was only a handful of times where the count was. There was only a handful of times where the count was 4 pitches and like fouling pitches off and battling at the plate. Now, we talked about it, kind of previously, but there is a fine line of walking down for an offense of grinding out at bats and being aggressive, right? And hunting fastballs and hunting strikes in the zone and being able to jump on good pitches, what we've seen the Padres not do as well. But, if you want to get to a guy early in the game and get him out of the game, you got to be able to see some pitches, foul some pitches off, and have those Jurickson Profar at bats where you are in a war with the starting pitcher. The Padres didn't really feel, they didn't really settle in last night offensively. And to me, the only thing that would be concerning about last night's game is you have a huge day the day before. Granted, it's against a different team where everybody's hitting, and then you have a day where almost nobody is hitting. And that's the inconsistencies that we've seen out of the Padres in 2023. And those are some of the inconsistencies we don't want to see in the Padres have offensively in 2024. It'd be nice to have them go on a roll for like a week and be able to grind through like a lot of the really good baseball teams do throughout Major League Baseball, where they get hot and they stay hot for a long time. They got extinguished last night. Hopefully they can bounce back tonight.
It's tough to have that grinder mentality and to keep it for every at bat of every game.
Yeah, it is.
And the reason straight up that the LA Dodgers win 95 to 105 games every year is they, as a lineup, embrace that philosophy.
Yeah,
every at bat of every game. So it's not Profar works an 8-pitch walk and then the next guy grounds into a first pitch double play. It's Muncy works an 8-pitch walk and then Hernandez works the count, and then Chris Taylor works the count, and then Gavin Lux works the count, and then everyone works the count.
The Padres can do that. It's just that they have to be more consistent across the board.
That's a discipline thing for sure.
We've seen them do that before.
That's a discipline thing. That's tough to incorporate. And there's a lot of teams that want to do that all the time. I think every team in baseball would love to do that all the time, but it's to be disciplined within yourself to go, I know I got a guy behind me that's going to rake just as much as the guy in front of me knows, and the passing the baton of just continuing to keep that assembly line going. And those are the offenses that win in October, the ones that are just consistently getting guys on base and putting guys in scoring position and giving the other team's pitchers stressful outings, stressful innings. You see that with the Dodgers night in and night out, but they kind of built that over some years of just the discipline and knowing like, all right, I'm going to take this pitch. It might be close enough for me to rake, but it's not a pitch I could do damage with. And I know the guy behind me can also do damage on some pitches. And then you force the pitcher into making a mistake over the heart of the plate. And the biggest difference that I see out of that team, the Dodgers specifically, they don't miss mistakes as much as some other teams do. And I've seen the Padres miss a lot of mistakes. So if that is the way that the Padres might have to be offensively, it would be great to see them. Xander works 6 pitches in the first at bat, and then Fernando comes up and he sees at least 3 or 4 pitches before he rakes one into the gap. And I think they're going to see a lot better pitches if they're able to do some of those things. But again, it's staying within themselves and staying disciplined and staying true to what their offensive plan is. And last night they were jumping on a lot of pitches in the zone, which very difficult to lay off with a guy like Kyle Gibson that throws strikes.
That's it. One kid who had a great night last night is one we'll talk about when we come back. Jackson Merrill finds a barrel one more time. Great celebration afterwards. Let's chat about it. We're overdue for a timeout. Annie and Elsten on the Fan. 11:31 on the Fan. Annie and Elsten back with you. Diving deep into our Padres, as we like to do in the second hour of the program. So all three of us were at the game last night, which means all three of us saw a very special moment in Jackson Merrill's career. His first major league home run. The rookie center fielder took a pitch high outside and smashed it over the left field fence. Another quick, boy, he's got quick hands. He is short and quick to that baseball.
Yeah.
Lined it over the Oppo Taco.
Great to see him go opposite field.
Yeah, 5-6 rows deep into the left center field stands. Buzzed his way around the bases. I think I saw AC in his newsletter say that who writes this stuff? Where can you look up fastest home run trot of the year? It's like the 8th fastest home run trot of the year.
That
was like
stats for everything.
The slowest one, I think, for a long time was like Rhys Hoskins when he got hit by the Mets.
Well, he said he thought that he had to get on base in case it was a double. Like in case it wasn't going to go out,
Well,
so he was booking it to second.
That's
and then,
great.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see out of those young guys instead of him, pimping one and then just saying, oh, I guess it didn't go out, leave the yard. Now Rhys Hoskins had like a 35-second one when he got hit by the Mets, like when he was part of the Phillies. And then later on he smoked one, and then he enjoyed every moment of that. That new rivalry of the Brewers and the Mets is going to be hilarious, by the way.
Go so slow around.
I would too, especially the Mets. Screw the Mets.
Did you guys ever see it was one of these online clips that just circled around for years. The old Yankee Mel Hall, who used to hit home runs and basically walk around the bases after he homered. And it was a side-by-side of a Mel Hall home run trot and a Bo Jackson inside the park homer. And it was like Bo could score 3 times
in the time that he got around
before Mel got to home plate.
That's fantastic.
So that was fun. And then Jackson Merrill made it around the bases. A really cool moment in that, which we found out in the reporting afterward. I was watching going, there was some fan down there that like pumped up Jackson right before he hit the homer, because as soon as he got to home plate, he pointed and he was like, you, yeah. It was Wyatt Huffman. It was Trevor's son.
Yeah. At first we were all looking from the press box and I thought that it was his family. I'm like, oh, his family must be right there or something as he's pointing. No, it was Wyatt Huffman. And the two of them are friends, and Wyatt came to watch him specifically. And so Jackson, after the game, was like, I felt like he deserved a point because he came to see and thank you so much for coming and watching and supporting. And that was great.
Yeah, it's fun to see kids act like kids, which is what Jackson Merrill is.
So exactly. I was going to say, I'll get to that with what I saw with him and Graham Pauley yesterday, but I know we want to stay on the home run. I loved the fact that he did the point after the game. He said, oh, I'm going to watch that video 40 million times, which was so great. Such a great answer. But then he was a pro about it. And he was like, but the real thing is, do we win the game? Do we lose the game? That's what we're focused on. But yeah, it was a great, great moment. And of course, the silent treatment. The silent treatment was amazing.
The silent treatment, which bless you, listener Murder Out on YouTube, who maybe has never seen this before, and put this quote in our chat, said, are you going to talk about the silent treatment of Jackson Merrill's home run? So weird, like trying to get energy and momentum on a team, and it's a good idea to ignore the guy that got a home run? Well, Murder Out, I guess you have not seen this. One of the funniest and most fun things that teams always do to rookies, which is to give them the freeze out when they get to the dugout. And you have to go the entire length of the dugout as a rookie. You have to go right from the front to the back with nobody looking at you, nobody acknowledging you, everyone pretending like you aren't there. And sometimes people, like as Sam says, sometimes they literally empty the dugout.
They run into the clubhouse.
Like everyone runs into the tunnel. And so the guy just walks in and there's no one there. And they're like, huh? Other times, they, like the Padres did, everyone looks away. It's like the janitor's coming through and everyone's just ignoring him. And Jackson did the thing. He did the fake high fives into the empty air. But here's the thing, Murder Out. The second he gets to the end of the dugout, this is how the game works. The second he gets to the end of the dugout, everyone pours in on him. And maybe you missed the part where they gave him a gigantic jumping group hug with Manny and Toddy and like the stars of the team. So no one was messing with Jackson Merrill. This is a game that everyone knows. It's a classic ritual.
Yeah, we're not going to be mean about it. Murder Out. I feel like maybe you just didn't know. You know, you maybe didn't know that, and that's like the bit. That's the bit. And so everyone's in on it. It's like a little bit of a rite of passage. It's a lot of fun. They get on video now, which is so cool. And he's gonna watch that, I'm sure, for the rest of his life too, or show his kids one day. But it's just the bit, and then they all jump on him, and that energizes the entire team.
Jackson Merrill was going to get a triple after his homer and have the best game of his career. And then Jordan Walker, who the most favorable scout you find in the history of the Cardinals will say is not a plus outfielder, got his 6'5" body horizontal and off the air and made a wild diving catch on Merrill with a runner on base his next time up. Jackson Merrill, look, we can talk about him every day, Annie, and every time we do, we're going to add the caveat, there's going to come a time. Because he's not hitting breaking balls, of course. Like if you just look at the hits he's gotten, it's been off fastballs, it's been off speed pitches. He's done a decent job of fouling off some breaking pitches, but there's going to come a time, and it might be in a week, when Jackson Merrill literally won't see a fastball for like 10 straight games, where it'll just be curve, changeup, slider, curve, changeup, slider. And that's coming. That's coming. I know it. But the tools are there. And once again last night, any ball that he could catch in center field, he was right there on play, on the play, on time, in the right spot to make the catch. Kid's got bat to ball skills. He's got enthusiasm. And I am so impressed through 7 games with Jackson Merrill.
Yeah, it's been good to watch him as he acclimates to big league pitching, see him using all parts of the field, see him going opposite field with that home run was great. Braden had a great point that he did. It was Jackson Merrill who capitalized on a mistake from Gibson. That was a mistake pitch, and he took it the other way for a home run. And I'll let Braden talk on that. But I just want to say, so yesterday we were in the clubhouse. The media was in the clubhouse. And Jackson Merrill and Graham Pauley's lockers are next to each other in the clubhouse. And the two of them go over stuff, hey, what time is this meeting? What time is that meeting? And then they got up and they played a massive game of ping pong in the middle of the clubhouse. And it was great. It was intense. It was fun. And I was talking to a front office official later on that day before the game started about how, and he was saying how he thought it was really good that the Padres kept Graham and Jackson together in their big league debut because they have each other. It's not just Jackson trying to acclimate. Jackson could go play a game of ping pong with a veteran, but it's not quite the same as being able to ask your buddy that you've known forever, that's your best friend, the two of you feeling comfortable with all the first that you're experiencing, all the newness that you're experiencing, having someone who knows you and that you can be like, wow, I never knew this was how it was, or I never knew, this is how I need to be in this situation. And just for them to share that, I think it was smart of the Padres to do that because they are able to go through it together and have each other while still learning a lot about how to go about a big league clubhouse.
Can I tell you what was my absolute least favorite part of last night's game? Number one least favorite part? Number 6 hitter for the St. Louis Cardinals, Matt Carpenter, stepped up to the plate last night. Very first pitch, drops a bunt on Waldron. Look, it was the right play. Padres were shifted. The entire left side of the infield was empty, but he dropped a bunt for a hit.
Good for him.
It was great.
It's great. Who cares?
He didn't get a hit for 2 months.
It's a wily veteran doing
That's
he
right.
did.
Doing his thing.
It's fine.
Go Frogs.
Then go Frogs. Then the second time up, what did he do? He got another hit. Was that a hit? He popped up a squibber that never wanted to get like 20 feet in the air, and somehow, like a perfect pitching wedge from right off the green, he just lobbed this little bad boy 50 miles an hour for a hit. Carpenter.
I don't think Matt Carpenter was trying not to hit last year.
Yeah, he just.
I know he wasn't trying not to
He was
hit.
working his butt off.
He just hated the Padres so much that he tried as hard as he could to make sure that
Bob
they
Melvin
were terrible.
Wasn't a big fan of Matt Carpenter. Left him on his bench for a month and a half straight. And then AJ Preller wouldn't take him off the team. And then Bob's like, well, I'm just not going to play him. I know, but it's still, I did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy watching those two balls hit the turf.
I asked my buddy before the game.
I think it's great. Go, Matt Carpenter. Do your thing.
That's right. Guy had a legendary career. Unfortunately for him, he's continuing to play when he probably shouldn't. But that's on him. Hey, somebody's willing to pay you to be in the big leagues. What's the rule? Any day in the big leagues is a good day. Good
Explain to me how, because he can't be getting less than his sixth. It's the Padres.
The Padres are paying him money.
Right. The Padres
are
paying Matt Carpenter money.
The Braves are paying him too.
Or the Braves are paying. It's something
the Padres
about
are paying him $1.5 million.
Okay, there you go.
And the Braves are paying him $4.5 million.
Okay.
Two teams are paying him money not to play for them this year.
Well, he's getting paid by both teams when he plays at Petco Park.
Yeah, he's getting paid by both teams and a team in first place in the AL East or the NL East.
Paychecks coming from all over.
I'd asked my buddy for the game. I said, "How many home runs does Matt Carpenter get this series?" He said 7. I said, "Series?" He's like, "Oh, I thought you said season."
Oh yeah,
but 7 still works.
5.5 according to Jimmy G. Well, regardless, the Braves are paying him a lot, and the Padres are paying him a little, and the Cardinals are paying him the major league minimum, and it's all good. But he got 2 hits that didn't leave the infield.
He was in a weird position last year.
That's right.
There was a fight between his parents, not his literal parents.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Like, someone's gonna hear that and be like, what? Like,
no, his parents are cool.
I'm not saying that he did not have his best year of his career playing with the Padres.
No, he did not.
But he was in a very strange position last year. And he knew it.
He was. We all knew it.
Yeah.
It was honestly, it was one of the big abiding mysteries of the summer.
I think he honestly wanted to be let go. Release me.
Of course.
He was like, release me. Let me go find. Yes, let me go play.
It was one of the weirdest things I've actually ever seen. Was because I've never seen before a GM be like, this player will be on your team. And then the manager go, I will never play him. And the GM go, okay, cool. Fight. And that's literally what they did.
I was not, we don't know what went on, honestly, what those conversations were and everything like that. It was a weird situation last year as a whole. I have no idea who was, necessarily right or wrong in the situation. I'm sure it was a little bit of both for everywhere, but it was an awkward situation.
It's like the exact opposite of Moneyball.
Yeah, pretty much.
Trade him. No, you got to play him.
You have to play. Well, I'm not going to play him.
Actually, yeah, it would have been bad if he traded somebody else.
And then and listen, I spent the whole summer railing about this on the podcast that we played a man short for a month and a half.
Well, and maybe Bob Melvin, maybe if he would have had more at bats, maybe if he would have been in the lineup night after night, then Matt Carpenter would have been able to get something going. I don't know.
No one will know because it became a tug of war.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you said it is exactly right. It was two parents fighting over the kid. And it was like, well, I want to take him out of this school. No, he's going to stay there. Well, he's never going to come to class. Okay. Well, I'm not changing. Well, I'm not changing. And of course, we're paraphrasing. None of us were in there for those conversations, but that's the result of what happened. Was a guy on the back of a bench going, I don't know why I'm here.
Right. And everybody asking him, what do you think? Like, people trying to ask him and he's just like, I just want to do my thing, play baseball. It was like, when there's like that elephant in the room and he wasn't sure how to act and people weren't sure how to act with him. And, it was just a whole thing. So
what does today's game look like? Let's take a look at it when we get back from this break. Annie and Elsten talking Padres baseball with you on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:50, short segment here before we get to the 12 o'clock sports fix at the top of the hour and get you caught up to date on everything happening in the world of sports. Been talking a lot of Padres baseball, as we are wont to do in the 11 a.m. hour. And of course, tonight, back at it this evening, Cardinals and Padres, game 2 of the 3-game set. And tonight it is opening day starter time again. Yu Darvish on the hill for San Diego, his 3rd start of the year. Miles Mikolas gets his 2nd start, former Padre farmhand. He got smacked by the Dodgers his first time out.
Not good, right? Yeah, not good. Not good for Miles Mikolas.
Stuff going against
so good for the Padres, perhaps.
Well, right. This is that thing. Let's see how tonight plays.
Okay.
Because last year, these were the games that the Padres laid an egg over and over and over again. Somebody coming off getting hammered, somebody coming in low confidence, the pitcher with a 9 ERA, and you'd look up and they're in the 6th inning with 65 pitches, throwing a shutout, kind of like Kyle Gibson was pretty much doing last night. So I want to see the bounce back, because this is what we've heard from this team all year, that they have that resilience, that they have that team chemistry. We saw them do it after they lost 2 in a row against the Giants. They came right back, smashed them on Sunday, got the series split. So baseball is a game of ebbs and flows. And again, any one game, you can get all worked up about it, or you can just let it go and go on to the next one. And it's let it go time for the Padres, because if they can come out, get a good outing tonight, then you give the ball to Joe tomorrow in the day game, looking to win the series.
Absolutely agree. I think this is a great one for a bounce back. I think Padres can get those bats going. Miles Mikolas is not unbeatable. You can beat him.
He's highly beatable. He's like the definition of beatable.
And you got Yu Darvish on the mound. Yu Darvish, who is
Tuesday.
Yeah, it's truly a Padre, the Padres ace, really, and him along with Joe Musgrove holding down that rotation. And so you've got a chance to reset your rotation. Let Yu Darvish go out there and do his thing. Yu continues to get stronger usually with every start. I'm excited to see it.
We literally haven't seen Mike Schilt's victory formula pitching yet, because every game has been kind of a weird mishmash and guys leaving in the 6th inning and, or leaving in the middle of innings. So I would love nothing more than to see like 6 1/3 strong from you tonight. And then, okay, who do you want in the set? Is it Matsui, De Los Santos, Suarez? Is it De Los Santos, Matsui, Suarez? Is it Matsui, Peralta, Suarez? Who are the guys we want to bring in on the reg in the 7th, 8th, 9th to close out games when you have a lead after 6? I would love to have an answer to that tonight.
Yeah, exactly. They've been going to their bullpen way too, well, not even way too early. It's just been the design really of this weird off season and this weird spring training and the trip to Korea and everything. Again, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here. Everything got thrown out of whack with that trip and the shortened spring training. And so I think going your 2nd time around for this rotation will tell us a lot more than the first time around. Which still they had good, they had good starts. It wasn't like they were terrible, but I think that they all feel like they've got more in the tank to give and even sharper to give than what happened that first time around. And look, if you can pull out, like, I'm not saying like they have to win the next 2 games. These are not must-win games, but these are definitely winnable games today and tomorrow. Then they have an off day on Thursday before playing in San Francisco. It'd be great to get wins with these 2, go into your off day with that.
All of us on this show picked the Padres to win somewhere between 84 and 86 games this year. And any season that winds up somewhere between 84 and 78 and 86 and 76 is going to have a lot of time just like this. Like, we might be 500 for 4 months and then have one good little winning streak that puts us, a few games over 500. And then we go back to playing 500 ball like all the time. This could completely be our team. And I think for Padres fans, once again, it's game 7. Let's not make, gigantic, bold pronunciation or pronouncements about the team. Let's intake more data and find out if there is a different level. All of us would love them to be 10 games over 500 and like rolling, or even like the Pirates off to a 5-0 start and freaking out. It's probably not our lot in life.
And Adam Klug, our intrepid boss man, made a good point, right? Are you writing off the Astros because they lost their first 4? No. Are you saying the Pirates are going to the World Series because they won? No.
Right.
You're following trends more than wins and losses right now. Follow the trends more than that.
We're going to trend our way through this timeout and straight to the 12 o'clock sports fix. All your Tuesday sports news next on The Fan. Here we are, halfway through the show, hour number 3 of the program. It's Annie and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan, with Annie Heilbrunn and Braden Soprenet. I'm Craig Elsten here with you. We have reached the lunch hour. The sun is atop the sky, and it's time to get you caught up to date on everything going on in the world of sports today. Local, regional, national news. We get you the good stuff every day at 12 o'clock. Let's start things off on the baseball beat. Annie's got it covered for you.
All right, starting around Major League Baseball first. After an 0-4 start to the season, the Houston Astros last night started Ronel Blanco, who had never pitched more than 6 innings in any of his previous 7 big league starts. Well, he ended up pitching the first no-hitter of the 2024 season. Now, he was 22 years old when he was signed out of the Dominican, which is like ancient by Dominican standards, by the way.
6 years too old.
And he was washing cars for a living at that time. He didn't make his major league debut until he was 28 years old. So what a story for Ronel Blanco.
Amazing.
Yes. The Chicago White Sox reached an agreement Monday with free agent right-hander Mike Clevenger on a 1-year contract. The agreement is pending a physical. Now, he had opted out and was going to make set to make like 12 million.
Yeah, 12, yeah.
And he's going to get maybe half that if he hits all of his what are they called? You guys know what I'm saying.
Yeah, the performance bonuses.
Thank you. The bonuses. Yes. Yeah. Always just searching for a word on this show, always just one word short at least.
Incentive clauses.
Incentive.
That's another word.
It.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Dodgers have claimed outfielder Taylor Trammell off of waivers. He had been let go by the Mariners. The Padres lost last night to the Cardinals 6-2. Jackson Merrill did hit his first major league home run going opposite field. And the Padres will play game 2 of the series tonight with Yu Darvish on the mound for San Diego and Miles Michaelis on the bump for St. Louis. And around the division last night, the Diamondbacks lost to the Yankees 5-2 and the Giants lost to the Dodgers 8-3. The Rockies, they are just lost. And the first game of the day around baseball is Minnesota at Milwaukee. First pitch at 1:10.
I love it. Hey, all the results went well for the Padres last
really
night.
Well, I mean, I guess the Dodgers winning, but
they beat the Giants.
You want
though.
the Dodgers beating your division, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
if they're going to win, beat your division opponents, right?
Speaking of big results, women's Final Four set. Braden's got that story for you.
Yeah, women's Final Four is set. We do have some local ties in the Final Four as well. I want to mention the games last night. The Iowa Hawkeyes defeated the LSU Tigers 94-87, a rematch of last year's national championship game. Iowa got the revenge on LSU as they downed the Tigers. Iowa advances to the Final Four. UConn Huskies beat the USC Trojans last night 80-73. UConn punched their ticket to the Final Four as well. Local product Ice Brady at a Cathedral Catholic High School had 8 points, 1 rebound, and 1 block for the Huskies. She's not the only San Diegan that will be competing in the women's basketball Final Four. NC State Wolfpack will take on South Carolina coming up on Friday in the Final Four. South Carolina's Tahina Paupau out of Oceanside, California, and La Jolla Country Day Schools, transferred in from Oregon, will help the Gamecocks out in the first game. And then in the second game, it's Ice Brady taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes and Caitlin Clark. That will be at 6 o'clock on Friday. So we got a girl in each game from San Diego.
Fun.
We'll see how they do. So Tahina Paupau and Ice Brady will represent San Diego well. And we'll have an update on how they did coming up on Monday of next week. So good to see some San Diego products playing in the Final Four.
I also failed to mention one of the biggest pieces of news from today, which is Larry Lucchino passing, of course.
Let's talk about it more.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more at the end. But of course, that is a huge piece of news around Major League Baseball.
Undoubtedly true. Guy that I got to know during the time that he was in town running this club. We'll talk about Larry, R.I.P. Larry Lucchino. My turn now for everything inside of a covered roof. NBA, NHL, arena sports. Some real big games last night in the NBA. We are now 12 days from the end of the NBA season, and there is a lot to be decided inside the association. The Phoenix Suns last night rode 52 points from Devin Booker, beating New Orleans 124-111. Phoenix moves within one game of the Pelicans to get out of the play-in tournament and get up to that critical number 6 spot in the Western Conference standings. Orlando edged Portland 104-103. The Magic are clinging to the 5th spot in the East. Chicago Bulls clinched a play-in spot for the 3rd straight year, even though they lost to the Atlanta Hawks 113-101. In all likelihood, Bulls-Hawks will be the 9-10 play-in matchup in the East. Tonight, some key games heading into the playoffs. The Clippers are at the Sacramento Kings. If LA wins, they clinch a tiebreaker over Sacramento. So big game, especially for the Kings. Mavericks at the Warriors tonight. Same thing. Dallas will clinch a tiebreaker over Golden State, and in doing so would clinch at least a play-in berth. Dallas is fighting to get as high as 5th in the standings. They are in 6th place right now. Lakers are at the Raptors tonight. Thunder are at the 76ers. That's the big news in the NBA tonight. Elsewhere, which is Philly's star center, defending league MVP Joel Embiid, is expected to make his return to the court tonight for the Sixers. It's been a long slog for the last 3 months without Embiid, which has seen the Sixers drop all the way into the play-in tournament. If Embiid is healthy and ready to go, they immediately become the team no one wants to face in the Eastern Conference. One other NBA note, 16-year point guard Rajon Rondo, a champion in Boston, a champion in LA. He announced his retirement from the association yesterday. Last night in the NHL, Austin Matthews had it again, scored his 61st, then his 62nd goal of the season. Toronto beat Florida 6-4. Kings dropped a 4-3 decision in Winnipeg. Penguins blew out New York Mike's Rangers 6-2. Tonight, Anaheim is at Calgary. San Diego Strike Force, do you know they still exist? They do. They played their home opener last night at Pechanga Arena in the Indoor Football League, and they beat the San Antonio Gunslingers by a very nice score, 69-61. Strike Force win. Defense optional in the Indoor Football League. San Diego Mojo back at home tonight, 7:05 first service as they take on the Omaha Supernovas. Back to Braden for college baseball and softball.
College baseball and softball, also college basketball. Recent report. This is from Ryan Karchi of the LA Times, who covers the USC Trojans. San Diego State's Brian Dutcher has been mentioned quite a bit in the last 24 hours as an option for the USC Hoops opening. But important to note, Dutcher signed an extension in March that upped his buyout to $10 million. It's going to cost you a lot, USC, if you want to get Brian Dutcher. Eric Musselman's buyout, by comparison, is $1 million. He is a USD Torero product after he has been coaching at Arkansas for the last couple of years. Ryan Karchi goes on to note Dutcher has never given any indication he'd want to leave San Diego State either, but that apparently is a name that USC is kicking around for a new basketball coach. I wouldn't really weigh too far into that one per se. As for college baseball, there was a game yesterday, if you want to call it a game. UC San Diego beat UC Riverside 20-2 to finish up that series. Triton swept Riverside in 3 games. With the sweep, the Tritons are now 6-3 in conference play, 19-6 overall on the season, and in second place in the Big West Conference, trailing none other than the UC Irvine Anteaters. That seems to be a recurring theme for these two schools in a lot of different sports. Today, the USC Trojans are in town to take on the USD Toreros in college baseball. That game will be at 6 o'clock at Fowler Park. I'm on the call on ESPN+. San Diego State Aztecs will be at Cal Poly for 2 games this week on a midweek. They will play today and tomorrow at Cal Poly before going up to take on San Jose State over the weekend. First pitch for the Aztecs and Mustangs will be at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Only one softball team is in action. That's California Baptist. Do not call us Cal Baptist.
Don't you dare.
At the San Diego Toreros. That game will be at 4 o'clock at the San Diego Softball Complex. California Baptist is 20-18 on the season. USD is 11-28. As for high school baseball, there was only 3 games yesterday. La Jolla beat UC 4-1. San Ysidro beat Mater Dei 8-4, and Hilltop beat Mar Vista 5-3. Top 10: Torrey Pines, Rancho Bernardo, Cathedral Catholic, St. Augustine, Patrick Henry, Granite Hills, La Costa Canyon, Carlsbad, San Marcos, and Eastlake. Top 10 coming after last week for high school baseball. That's it for baseball and softball news. Do have some news in the National Football League. Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is cooperating with authorities in Dallas after a speeding Corvette and Lamborghini sport utility vehicle caused a chain reaction crash on a busy Dallas highway Saturday. On behalf of Rashee Rice, his thoughts are with everyone impacted by the automobile accident on Saturday, turning Royce West said in a statement. Rashee is cooperating with local authorities and will take the necessary steps to address this situation responsibly. It was reported over the weekend that one of the cars was registered to Rashee Rice as they were looking for the drivers of those cars because they had fled the scene. We'll have more updates on that as they come about. But interesting news out there in Dallas in the National Football League, and that'll do it for me.
Great stuff. Our 12 o'clock sports fix today makes it into the 10-minute mark. Midweek, things kind of shorten up just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, we don't have the whole weekend of arena stuff. We don't have a golf tournament. We don't have, there's so many things.
The weekend sports fix hit a lot harder. There's a lot more info you got to get in 3 days.
It hits a little different. Mondays and Fridays hit a little different.
That's right.
Yes.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday sails right through. And of course, we won't have a 12 o'clock sports fix tomorrow because we will be handing things off to the Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show with our guy, Sammy Levitt, tomorrow at 12:05 for a 1:10 first pitch between the Padres and the Cardinals.
Hopefully a rubber match.
Hopefully a rubber match. Absolutely. You brought it up. Let's take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about Larry Lucchino because there's a lot to say about a man who fundamentally changed the future of sports in the city of San Diego. Fundamentally, he changed City of San Diego sports. We'll talk about it more on the other side. Annie and Elsten here with you on San Diego's #1 sports station. Stay right here on 97.3 The Fan. 12:18 on the Fan. Welcome back. Craig Elsten, Annie Heilbrunn, Braden Sopranet, Annie and Elsten with you till 2 o'clock on your home for Padres baseball. I don't want to be hyperbolic or over dramatic, but
that usually ends with.
But here it comes right now.
Hyperbole and
Here comes something very dramatically hyperbolic. How unfair is it to say that Larry Lucchino saved baseball in San Diego?
I don't think it's unfair. I think that there's a valid question of if Petco Park hadn't been built, what would have happened to this team?
I think so too.
Look at what happened with the Chargers.
Look at what's happened with plenty of teams, right? Petco Park is now an integral part of San Diego's downtown skyline, of the Gaslamp Quarter. And at the time, in 1998, Measure C was not a sure thing. And, overall, I'm going to just say overall, my overall adult, informed, lifelong built opinion, having seen this occur in city after city after city around the country, is that in general, it's better if you don't buy your local team a ballpark on public money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they got to have some skin in the game.
Yeah, and you really don't see it happening hardly anywhere anymore because most people have figured that out.
Correct.
They have enough money to build this. They have enough money, or like some joint venture or something like that.
Yeah, where the city gets half the profits or more than half the profits. Or
in the
like
90s and 2000s, though, it was a very regular thing.
Yes.
And Petco Park was on Measure C. And 1998 was all about, will this pass in November and allow for the building of Petco Park, or will it not pass? And the Padres start to kind of maybe cast their eye around or understand we're stuck in this, rotting hunk at Qualcomm Stadium. And so what did the team do? Of course, they traded for Kevin Brown. They made the moves that they had to create a great team on the field. San Diego built up, their support for the Padres over the course of the year. It was one of those times, because you see it all the time. By the way, it's happening today in Kansas City. It is literally happening today in Kansas City, Missouri. They are voting on a public referendum to give the Royals a piece of downtown to build a new stadium away from their current spot. Kauffman Stadium is in a giant lot alongside Arrowhead Stadium. And they're literally right next to each other, 1-2. They're talking about now getting rid of Kauffman Stadium, renovating Arrowhead Stadium, and putting a new Royals ballpark in downtown. There's always pluses and minuses to everything to this. I know Adam was asking you to go on like a Kansas City station tomorrow and talk about it. I kept my mouth shut while he was talking.
I saw that.
Because if I go on there, I'm going to be like, generally, this is a bad idea. Like what you guys are doing. It's usually bad for your city if you buy the home team a ballpark with public money.
It was so common 20 years ago.
It really was.
So common 20, 30 years ago. But yeah, there's been a lot of reports that have come out about, and books, I see in the chat, things like that have come out about the financials just not making sense for these usually.
Correct. One place where I do believe the team's promises came true was here.
Yeah.
Because if you are new to the city, meaning you haven't been living here more than 20 years, then you don't remember what downtown was like 25 years ago, 30 years ago. When I first moved here in 1990 to go to UC San Diego, moving down from Long Beach, Annie, San Diegans who I met at UCSD, they would just tell me, don't go downtown after 8 o'clock at night. Like, just don't go down there. It's the wrong place to be.
I was talking to some old San Diego Chargers players, and back in the day when it was the 90s, early 2000s, I was like, oh, you guys would probably like go downtown, whatever. And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. And they were like, Annie, the only place to go downtown was like one bar or one club called Blue Tattoo. And it was like, you were, always at risk of something bad happening down there. And there just was nothing else. There was not at all a vibrant or thriving place.
East Village was even worse.
It was, yeah, I hope people have seen some of those photos. If not, Google them. You can see what East Village looked like before Petco Park came along.
And the promise was that Petco Park would not just be a ballpark, it would be a fulcrum for the community. It would lead to development, that it would lead to a revitalization of downtown. And 20 years later, it 100% happened. Everything that was said happened. The Gaslamp Quarter is now one of the most vibrant economic districts in San Diego. It is a place everyone goes now on the weekend. You do go downtown. You go to a Saturday game at 5:40 and you spill out of there and you spill into the East Village. You spill into the Gaslamp Quarter. I now, as you guys know, I park about a mile from the ballpark usually when I go, and I walk through all these areas every game that used to be like, you better not go there. Yeah. And it's a completely different city than it was when I first got here, 3+ decades ago. Petco Park really did change downtown.
Yeah, it absolutely changed that area. And I look, San Diego would be a thriving, vibrant city with or without Petco Park. But the fact that you have that area downtown that people can enjoy, that people can invest in, that people now want to live around. I mean, the rents and the home price or the condo prices around there, it's just, they continue to skyrocket, despite the fact that they do have obviously some problems that have come up in terms of places staying open, especially post-pandemic, because of financial, we've seen so many restaurants close down there and nothing has reopened in those spots. Also, obviously, a homeless issue in San Diego that continues to be worked on, but not quite addressed. But East Village used to just be like, exactly, it was a terrible place. You didn't want to go down there, and maybe you had something to do in that area and you had to be down there. I remember doing stand-ups in that area before they had built out some of the restaurants and condos and things like that around, and looking over and being like, this looks bad. Like, this is not a great place, right? And now, when you see athletes move here or people move here from other places, a lot of times they'll start by living downtown because you can walk everywhere. You've got a great places to go. You cross the bridge over to the Embarcadero over there. It's great. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's completely different than what it used to be. And Petco Park was the foundation for all of that.
It was. And I think what the Padres did so well was they did not, what's the right way to put it? They put themselves downtown, but they also made themselves a part of downtown. I think the Western Metals building is a perfect example of that, right? Building into the infrastructure of downtown.
I tell you what, even last night I was sitting, and over the weekend, this is so random, but the airport changed their flight paths so that the planes were flying like more constantly. They were flying over Petco Park. Yeah. They're usually flying in, but instead they were taking off over Petco Park because of some wind thing or whatever. I don't know how all it works, but it was gorgeous. I mean, you're sitting there, you look at that skyline, you look straight out. Last night there was that rocket launch, that SpaceX rocket launch over a sunset, over Petco Park. And I thought to myself, it really is beautiful. I mean, you sit there and the way that the skyline works in around the ballpark. Honestly, I know Pittsburgh has something similar, I believe, PNC right? Park, like they've got it. Like when you have it as part of your infrastructure downtown, even like Coors is, like it's just different than if you have to drive, like in Atlanta, you have to drive all the way to their new ballpark where they've built some stuff around it, but it's not in like a thriving neighborhood. It's just like a standoff. Yeah. This is different. It's just part of the neighborhood.
Well, we've spoken very generally about a thing that Larry Lucchino was entrusted with bringing across the line for the San Diego Padres. And when he was the president of the team and John Moores was the owner of the team, Lucchino was the man who had the politics on lock, who had the design on lock, working with Eric Judson and everyone else. And really, he was the face of Prop C, or Measure C. He was the face of the Petco Park project and was there to shepherd the team through what was a very contentious time, because that was approved in 1998. Again, many people may not remember our local history. I kind of got to remind myself of that sometimes. And in fact, a series of 17 lawsuits were introduced to the Petco Park site by a local man named Bruce Henderson, who was trying to stop the building of the ballpark, thought it was the wrong thing for the city. And while he didn't stop it, he delayed it for 2 full years. Petco Park, we should be in the 22nd anniversary of Petco Park. It was supposed to opening day 2002.
And then the rest of everything being built out was delayed also. So like,
correct.
The neighborhood didn't really even take full shape until years after that.
Years. It was
maybe even
almost 2 years of dirt with rebar sticking out of it downtown for the moment where the lawsuit came down and was like, freeze until we get this decided. Lucchino had to fight through all of that as well. It was a really ugly time in San Diego local politics, stadium politics, ballpark politics, etc. Lucchino got that job done. He was the leader of the front office when the team went to their last World Series in 1998. And then when he left, he went to Boston and found Theo Epstein to come with. And guess what? The Red Sox wound up having the greatest period of their franchise's history in the late 2000s into the early 2010s. Lucchino was the architect of revitalizing Fenway Park. He was the man who introduced the Green Monster seats. Those seats didn't used to exist. Now people probably think that they have always existed and that people could always sit on top of the Green Monster in Fenway. That is not the case. That is a Larry Lucchino innovation in Boston. A lot of things that happened at Fenway Park that are now thought to have always been a part of that old ballpark, the big Budweiser terrace they have out there in right field, that was a Larry Lucchino innovation and creation. This is one of the most successful, accomplished architects of change in the history of modern baseball. And he is a man that, if you are a San Diego Padres fan, at least is deserving of your recognition today.
Yeah, there's so many along his executive, reign or whatever. There's a lot of executives that say they're going to get things done, but then actually when action, it's time to put the rubber to the road, they don't get it done. And he was someone who did. He was someone who was able to institute and implement action and get things done in the city, which you guys all know. Everybody knows how hard it is to get anything done in the city. It's not easy, right? And so yeah, he really is. And I thought it was so great that the Padres, not that it, I'm sure for Larry Lucchino it was nice, but he's accomplished so much throughout his career. But they did honor him in the Padres Hall of Fame in 2022. He was here. He got to reconnect with quite a few people, and they had wonderful words to say about him. And so I thought that was really a good thing to have happened. But there's so many people that walk around the ballpark today that still have very close ties to Larry Lucchino.
I wonder if Ben remembers this. When he and I were doing the Kogo pre-post game shows for Padres, 2000 2003, obviously Larry Lucchino was the president of the team still at that time. He was one of the early people that backed the two of us in the job. Like, we were two young kids at 28, 26 years old at that time. And he was one of the first people that kind of like came to us, said, you guys are doing great. You guys are the best show in the country. Like, all this. And he was like it was affirming, right? Yeah. Because Larry Lucchino, if you never met the man, Larry Lucchino was one of those people that you meet in your life that are so intelligent. They're razor sharp. They have the busiest type of schedule where they do 5 times the things that you might do in a day. They can handle that type of workload. It might overwhelm you or I. Just speaking to anyone in the audience, it might overwhelm you to have that kind of load that Larry Lucchino could handle on a daily basis. But Larry Lucchino also would not suffer fools, which makes sense, right? Like, if you're razor sharp and ultra committed and overburdened, like, you're not going to suffer fools easily. So when you met Larry Lucchino, you wanted to make sure that, like, you were on point. You know what I mean? Like, I heard Katie Wu say earlier this morning, like, I never want Paul Goldschmidt to be disappointed in me. Yes. Like, that's how you felt kind of about Larry Lucchino. Like, you didn't want him to think that you were slacking on the job, because he's the kind of person who was the opposite of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have that kind of person, and he also is able to get the things done that he promises, it lifts everyone else up, right? Like, exactly. You've got to be able to keep up with that. You've got to be able to pull your weight, because he's going to expose you if not. So I think that it kind of makes everybody at their sharpest And I think there's so much pride in what he was able to do. Worked with the Orioles, worked with the Red Sox, worked with the Padres, and really so many people who are beloved over him throughout his tenure.
We didn't even Orioles, Camden Yards.
Right, Camden Yards was another one.
One of the greatest ballparks in the history of the world. Like that was Larry. So Lucchino was Camden Yards. Lucchino was Petco Park. Lucchino was renovating Fenway Park. He made baseball better. He made this sport better over his time as an executive. And like the last personal anecdote I would say, he was irascible too. Like he had that kind of salty edge to him a little bit, but he was also incredibly professional because he was these people in these giant multi-million-dollar meetings, right? So I remember one time, it was the last time that Ben and I interviewed him, and we were in his office for a pregame show. It was probably 03, I forget. But we were in his office and he, sit down. Oh, you're always nervous when you go to the big boss, right? Sit down, do the interview, whatever. He's super professional, ultra great, said nice things about us again. We turn off at that time, recorder, right? It wasn't your phone. We had, some recorder. Turn it off. And then he just looks up at us and smiles and goes, "Now get the F out of my office." And we're like, yes, sir.
Yeah. I like that though. I like that. I think it's really nice when there's a relatability to someone who is also able to achieve so much. Sometimes you have people in those chairs that are not so relatable, that don't really kind of pay attention to the little people, so to speak, or only do it for their benefit. You kind of see right through it. It's not very genuine. So it's nice when you're able to have someone who is obviously so professional and respected in his position, but then also is able to give you a little, able to kind of, make sure that you're on your toes.
Yeah, that's Larry Lucchino. So rest in power, Larry Lucchino, a man who accomplished more in his life and his career than many, many, many people could ever possibly accomplish in their life and their career. Literally changing Baltimore, San Diego, Boston, 3 critical baseball markets, making them all significantly better due to his leadership and his vision. Rest in power, Larry Lucchino. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, it's time for Silly Games. We have reached that time of the show. I always look forward to it so much.
What is the game today?
Today's hot potato.
Okay.
It's a hot potato day. We're not going to get to the match game till Thursday because tomorrow, no game.
Oh, wow.
Gives me an extra day to write some questions.
I wonder if you should just keep everyone in after the round table
and just go right into match game?
Into an hour of match game. Yeah.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
I'm pretty sure that Tony and Chris and Woods, if he was in here,
they'd all be thrilled.
Like, "Oh man, I would love to stay.
Yeah.
I really would, Craig.
But I gotta go.
I got this. I got that.
Just gotta go.
Next time.
Yeah, Ben might stay. Ben loves games enough. Stay. Ben loves game shows enough. If I was like, "Hey, you can host," it's like I'll be a panelist. Ben, you can host. He'd be like, "Okay, I'll do it." So, that's probably not happening. Hot potato is what's happening. This is the fast-paced game of trivial knowledge. Braden Soprenet has come up with 3 lists that you have to toss the hot potato back and forth. An incorrect answer drops the hot potato. First to get 2 out of 3 wins. And if you, dear listener, wind up calling in and becoming the contestant and then winning, you will be qualified for our end of the month drawing for our grand prize, a 2-night stay at Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino and 2 tickets to see Kool and the Gang, the iconic legendary funk group coming up. They have a residency at Westgate throughout 2024. So we are looking for a contestant for Silly Games. Give us a call right now, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We will get you lined up, and we'll come back, and we'll play hot potato. Andy and Elsten with you right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:44 on the Fan. Annie and Elsten here with you. Gwen and Chris will come up at 2 p.m. They've got a 3.5-hour show. And then at 5:40, our man Sammy Levitt, in-season Sammy, with the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40 p.m. First pitch tonight downtown, 6:40 p.m. Yu Darvish, third start of the year against Miles Michaelis. But it is 12:45-ish, 1 minute short. Still plenty of time to play our silly games. Well, Janet K may not have time to play our silly games, but we do. That's right. It's hot potato time. Such a jarring switch in music from the downbeat 1971 Janet K to
Van Halen.
Yeah. But it wakes you up.
It does. Gets you fired up. All right. It's time for Hot Potato, one of our 3 silly games. This is the game of fast-paced trivial knowledge. And who is our contestant today?
That'd be Steven in Oceanside. Steven, what's going on?
Hey, not much. How are you guys doing? Beautiful day today.
It is a gorgeous day, Steven. We appreciate you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Just an old man trying to make his way in sunny Southern California.
I appreciate that, man. Every day above ground, a good day, right, Steven?
That's right. That's right.
Well, let's make it an even better day. Potentially, it's time to play Hot Potato. If you win, all you got to do is take 2 out of 3 rounds here, and you will be qualified for our end of the month drawing, which will take place at the end of April, for a 2-night stay at the Westgate Las Vegas Resort and Casino, plus 2 tickets to see Kool and the Gang, who you are old enough to remember when they were the bomb. So, Steven, we're rooting for you, buddy. First thing you got to do is pick your opponent. Would you like to take on myself or Annie?
Annie.
Oh, wow. Great, Steve.
Of course, Annie.
Everyone loves to play Annie. I understand.
A better shot at winning for you, which is great.
Know.
That's right. Well, I don't know about that. But...
Well, here's what's going to happen, Steven. Braden, our sadistic leader of this game, he's come up with 3 different challenging lists for you both to go back and forth on. Annie will go first in the first question. You'll go first in the second question. And you got to just go back and forth, giving correct answers. If you run out of time or you give an incorrect answer, you drop the hot potato. First person to drop it twice loses. And we don't know if that'll be you, Steven, or not. But are you ready to play?
I am ready.
All right, Braden, I turn it all over to you, my friend.
Well, this would have been a tough one if you're taking on. This would have been a tough one for Craig. And you might have beaten Craig, but I don't know if you're going to beat Annie.
Oh, God.
Don't
set me up like that, Braden.
Dance styles. Styles of dance back and forth.
Okay, then.
Go ahead, Annie.
Braden's like, I gotta help Annie out here a little bit. Okay. Ballet.
Ballet is correct.
The cha-cha.
Ooh.
The cha-cha. Yes. That's
Tap
on it.
dance.
Tap dance is the thing.
Irish dancing.
Irish dancing.
Jazz dancing.
Jazz dance. Yep.
Rock and roll dancing.
Rock and roll
The
dancing. Twist.
Okay, well, you saved it with the
I'll
twist.
give you the twist.
You saved it with the twist.
Modern/contemporary.
Contemporary is on there.
Gosh. Swing dancing.
I'll give you
Absolutely.
That's good, yeah.
Absolutely.
Hip hop.
Hip hop is correct.
Oh, gosh. Break dancing.
Break dancing?
Covered on
Yeah.
hip hop.
I think it's covered on hip hop.
Covered on hip
Oh.
hop. Oh. Andy, you won the dance one.
That was a good battle.
That was.
Yeah.
Would you have taken things like foxtrot
I was
or
gonna start going
No.
to
yeah, going through all
I
the
don't know,
dance?
Braden
You wouldn't have?
taken
I was waiting for like ballroom dance and
Yeah, ballroom. But then foxtrot's under ballroom. All of those.
Latin dance,
Like
contemporary,
flamenco.
modern.
Did he say like
A lot of those
flamenco,
used it.
Yeah.
Tango.
It's okay though,
Tango.
Steven. You're
No,
still
you did a
alive,
good job,
buddy.
Steven.
You're
That
still
was good.
alive. this is round 2. All you got to do is win this round to even things up.
Can you name me, since the St. Louis Cardinals are in town,
Oh, God.
players that have started for the St. Louis Cardinals?
This year or ever?
Never. Just St.
any
Louis Cardinals starters.
Starting pitchers or starting
Starters.
players?
Starting position players.
Oh, my God.
No
this could go on all hour.
No,
It could.
I'm not good at this. Like,
Oh, that's right. This is the one I would have killed.
yeah.
That's right.
Like,
Go ahead, Steven.
Steven goes first.
Somebody started for the Cardinals.
Remember, you can pick anyone who played last night.
I don't remember.
I cannot.
This.
You can't think of one Cardinal
Here,
in your
I'll go
history,
first.
Steven.
I cannot think of one Cardinal.
Not even
Do
one?
you want me to go first and then
Go
you
ahead,
think of
Annie.
one?
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Annie.
Matt Carpenter.
Matt
There you go.
Carpenter.
That's one.
There's one. Steven.
Steven.
I can't.
Oh, Lord.
I cannot.
Stan Musial? Ozzie Smith?
Yadier Molina.
Greg Garcia.
Albert Pujols.
Greg Garcia?
Skip
Oh,
Schumacher.
I know those
Skip
guys. but
Schumacher.
I couldn't have named them.
Oh, it's okay.
I know
buddy.
it's hard to remember the names.
I know.
It really
Put on the
is.
spot.
And when you're on the spot, you're on the radio. We totally get it, Steven. Great job, especially in that first game. That was a really competitive one. And give us a try next week, buddy. Hopefully, we'll get you qualified.
Appreciate you, Steven.
Steven in Oceanside. How long could I possibly go naming Cardinals? I don't want to bore you all by going as long as I possibly could naming Cardinals.
Paul Goldschmidt.
Jed Jerko.
Tommy Herr,
Mark McGuire.
Dan Dreesen,
I don't-
Danny Cox,
Jim Edmonds.
John Tudor.
Ryan Ludwig.
I'm just thinking like what was his name? Victor Scott. Victor
Scott the second.
Scott the second. Yeah.
There you go.
David Freese.
Oh, David Freese is
Tommy
a good
Edman.
one. Right.
Oh, Tommy Pham.
John Jay.
Red Shanedeist.
Harrison Bader.
We could keep going. I mean, we could just go forever.
Next question on there was, can you name me the schools in the Big East,
No.
aka the Big Priest?
Oh
They're
my
all Catholic
God.
Anytime you
schools
do
except for one.
conference ones, it's like tap out.
Big East.
They're all
Connecticut.
Catholic schools except for one, which would be Connecticut,
I picked the one.
the one non-Catholic school, or at least Christian denomination.
Notre
but most of
Dame?
them are, Notre Dame is not in the Big East. They're independent in the ACC.
Okay, so I knew they were with somebody for basketball. They're in the ACC for basketball?
Yes,
Got it. Syracuse?
Syracuse in the
East?
ACC.
What? They used to always be in the Big East.
They're not anymore.
I don't
Big East
understand
is
the
now
world
the Big
anymore.
Priest. St. John's, Seton Hall, Villanova,
Ding.
Xavier, Butler, DePaul, Marquette, Creighton, all Catholic schools.
Dude.
The Big Priest.
I got to be honest. You could beat me any game, any week in hot potato just by saying conference realignment.
Conference, new
Same.
conferences.
Hot potato is our hardest game. It's tough.
Maybe the Pac-2.
It is very hard.
Pac-2. Who's in the Pac-2?
Washington State, Oregon State. I got that one. Yes.
Hey! What's going on?
Give me a 2-team conference. I am set.
On it.
16-team conference. No idea.
Can you name the new Big 12?
No.
The new Big 12 had to postpone their games in Mexico for a year. Still planning on that.
Is that where USC and UCLA are?
They're going to the Big 10.
Whatever.
That's where it gets really confusing because the Big 12 doesn't even have 12. They currently have 10 teams. The Big 10 currently has 14 teams, which is going to change to 16 teams. And they're still going to be called the Big 10 because they can't change their name because the Big 12 thought they were going to expand faster way back in the day. And they have the naming rights for Big 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20.
That's messy.
Really?
Right. So the Big 10's had all these teams, but they couldn't change their name.
Right.
Big 12 can't. Big 12 is going to have 14 teams next year.
And will they call themselves the Big 14?
I don't know. They've talked about branding changes, but I don't know. They might just keep themselves the 12.
I'm so confused.
That's where it gets really confusing. The Big 10 had 14, the Big 12 had 10. Everything's all over the place.
Pac-12 has 2.
Pac-12 is now the Pac-2 after being the Pac-12 and the Pac-10.
They were the Pac-8 before that.
And the Pac-8, correct.
It's super confusing.
Yeah.
Who can keep up with this?
Annie, you and I are
I can.
like this on this element. You and I are completely aligned.
The whole keep it simple, stupid. Like, where
That's
are we
right.
with that? With the conference? Like,
Hey, you
it's-
know what? I bet you Craig could tell me who's in the indoor soccer league.
Yeah, I could.
See? Yeah.
Yeah, I could give you all 13 teams in the major
That's
arena
right.
soccer league.
See? Exactly.
But they haven't completely,
changed everything.
Yeah, there weren't
Every year,
300 of them, and then they were in one thing for 100 years, and now they're in a different thing.
There's 9 schools in the West Coast Conference that we have a team in. Can you name the 9 schools in the West Coast Conference? They're all Christian
Gonzaga,
Catholic schools too.
USD.
Yes.
Cal Poly?
Cal Poly's not. They're in the Big West.
Dang it. Came up short. Now, you're a Big West guy, so you are...
I'm a Big 12 guy.
Yeah. But, I mean, you've called enough...
West Coast Conference
West Coast
games.
Conference games.
Yeah.
So you should have...
I have
St. Mary's, right? St. Mary's,
yes.
WCC, Loyola Marymount?
Yes. Also another Catholic school.
Okay. All right.
There's one in Oregon.
There's one in Oregon?
Yes.
I don't know.
Portland.
The
Portland Pilots.
Wow.
They all have travel partners, or they did until BYU left. But there's you're missing 2 in the Bay Area. 3 if you count Stockton.
Pacific. The Tigers.
The Tigers. Used to be a Big West school.
Stockton is not a part of the Bay Area.
I would agree with that. But you never know. Some people. Northern California, they just assume is the Bay.
Did you know that Stockton is the city that has the furthest inland port in all of the United States of America?
I can believe that.
I did not.
I can believe that.
I had to visit Stockton many a time with the San Diego Gulls. And I learned that in the course of walking around the port of Stockton, which was close to the...
It's a fun fact.
It is a fun fact.
You're also missing USF, San Francisco, Santa Clara.
Eddie has a look that indicates the opposite of what she says. And I just received that look. You have no interest in that being the furthest inland port city.
It's interesting. I feel like I will sleep a little bit better tonight.
I learn something new every day on this show.
Good. The more you know.
You learned the furthest inland port city. It's Stockton, California.
Now all our listeners.
What else happens in Stockton?
Not a lot.
It used to be the West Coast Conference Baseball Championships, but they moved it to Vegas. Anybody surprised?
No,
not surprised.
When I was with Gulls, we would go. You stayed at the same hotel every time, the Waterfront Hotel, which was right across the street from the Stockton
Sounds
Arena.
Fancy.
It's not.
Fancy.
Okay.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And I used to say that if I died and went to purgatory, that my purgatory will be waking up every morning at the Waterfront Hotel, running on the treadmill, going across the arena, announcing a 2-1 Gulls loss, coming back, having a glass of wine, waking up, same thing, 10, 20,000 years. I'll atone for my sins. Hour number 4 of Annie and Elsten next on The Fan. Back with you for hour number 4, where you never know what you're going to learn on Annie and Elsten, your new midday hang on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Annie Heilbrunn is here, along with Braden Suprenant. I'm Craig Elsten. Squirrely in the chat offered me a correction because, you put things out, you put misinformation out into the world, and it's just only bad things happen. So Squirrely is here to let me know that, in fact, I misspoke. And Stockton is the furthest inland port on the west coast of the United States. But the port of Duluth Superior is slightly further inland. So now you know.
Thank you, Squirrely.
Thank you, Squirrely. Whatever the topic may be, whether it is the distance of ports relative to oceans, or whether it is Padres baseball, you'll get it all right here on.
Yeah, I'm sure our listeners love, they like I said, they'll sleep better. They'll move about their day better. They'll discuss it at the water cooler.
Inland port talk that rocks right here.
Wonderful.
On Annie and Elsten. All right, let's reset some. What blows my mind is that, like, you just say something like, nope, you're wrong. And
the chat will tell
like,
you right away.
The chat is beautiful.
Because I'm like, I'm constantly looking like, oh, did I say something wrong? They'll tell me.
Right.
Okay, I didn't.
No, it's good. It's crowdsourcing.
Yeah, it's crowdsourcing.
It's wonderful, and we are thankful for everybody who is here with us. We got one more hour of the show. Gwen and Chris will check in at 2:00 with Matt Scraby as well. No Scraby Chronicles tonight, though, because at 5:30 they're going to hand things off to the Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt. And first pitch, Yu Darvish will throw it at 6:40 tonight against the St. Louis Cardinals. Miles Michaelis, ex-Padres farmhand, will be on the other side for St. Lou. Last night, Padres lost 6-2, continuing the troubling trend of starting pitchers really not getting to the fifth or through the fifth. Dylan Cease didn't get to the fifth. Michael King didn't get to the fifth. Matt Waldron is the third consecutive Padres starter, although he did face one batter in the fifth inning. He gave up a hit to that batter and came out. And we talked a lot in the first hour about Matt Waldron. You can go back and find that on demand on the podcast. You can go back and rewind on YouTube a little bit later. But I think just bottom line, generally speaking, Annie, we all expect the Padres starting rotation to be better than this, and we know they will be.
Yeah, Kevin Acee in his newsletter had a few stats. The Padres are getting less than 4 1/3 innings from their starters. That's third fewest in the major leagues. They're one of 7 teams to have not gotten at least 6 innings from a starting pitcher this season. And we've talked about it, Craig, right? Like they've had a weird spring training. They had a weird, kind of 10 days there with the going to Korea, then coming back, having the exhibition games. It wasn't the normal ramp up that some of these other teams and players have had. Now, at some point, you're gonna need to turn the page from that, and it might be now when you're in the second time through for the rotation. But I really think that giving them a look in the second time through is going to give you a more valid indication of where the starting pitching is at versus the first time through, which wasn't terrible. It just wasn't as good as even they would want it to be.
Correct. And all these pitchers have been on 80 pitch, soft pitch count limits their first time out. That first set of games on the 20th and the 21st last month in Korea, you might as well throw those games out. Not the results, obviously 1-1 counts, but for the pitchers especially, those were exaggerated spring training starts. They weren't built up. That you're doing live fire, you're in a real game, but you have like 60 pitches under your belt for games like that. So it wasn't just Darvish and Musgrove. Glasnow only went 5. Yamamoto went 1.
Correct.
In those games. So take those, toss them out. Tonight starts the second full turn through the Padres rotation in the United States of America. And by Sunday, we're going to be all the way through one more time. We'll see you tonight, Joe tomorrow, and then up in San Francisco, we'll see Cease and King and Waldron.
Interesting.
In the Friday, Saturday, Sunday games. So one more time through the rotation before we get back on Monday's show. And I'm expecting every pitcher to add an inning to what they did last time.
Yeah, I think so. And also probably be even a little bit more sharp with their stuff. I think I was there for most of the post games from these starting pitchers, and they were the first ones to take responsibility, take accountability, and say this was not what I hoped to be. Like this, I was a little bit off. I couldn't get into a rhythm, not my sharpest. I gave up too many walks. So there is not one pitcher in that room that is, as looking at themselves and being like, yes, I've made it. I'm good. Just status quo the rest of the season. They're also, like I said, they're working through things, and they are looking at themselves in terms of being able to go a little bit stronger in their outings.
Meanwhile, as Matt Waldron did struggle a little bit, I will still say I think there were some things that you can look at and not just throw him out in the trash bucket and say this guy's bad, DFA him. He got to 2 strikes on literally every hitter that he had an extended at bat against. All the runs he gave up were with 2 outs. And it looked like, quite simply, a man who used his knuckleball more than in any other start in his career, major or minor leagues, that he was really trying to get 2-strike knuckleballs past hitters in the first inning and seemed to, quite frankly, Annie, overthrow them a little bit. And the thing about a knuckleball is if you overthrow it, it becomes a tumbling, ugly, hanging breaking ball, essentially at 80 miles an hour. If you throw it right, it goes, and then it falls down unexpectedly.
Yeah, many of his knuckleballs kind of flattened out. The hitters were able to put good swings on him. They were able to capitalize on those. And yeah, he did. I see a note in the chat, and you're correct. He did pitch. He had the most pitches of any of the starting pitchers. So Waldron had 91 pitches, furthering the point that it's not just the pitch count, it's the efficiency and how deep you can go, which obviously we know, but yes, it's not just, but in terms of some of these guys, it was about holding them back a little bit in terms of, especially like a Dylan Cease, who had a very off spring training as well. He didn't start early. He was with the White Sox. By his own accord, he missed about 10 days. So I think we're going to see a little bit more, like you said, this time out. And for Waldron, I think that they're going to give him a shot to make adjustments for his next start.
From the offensive standpoint, it was we've seen 2 of these now, kind of irritating nights where the Padres get multiple home runs and wind up with just the total of their home runs. They had 3 homers on Friday and lost 9-3. They had 2 homers last night and lost 6-2. And it was an evening of frustration against a sinker baller, a strike thrower, Kyle Gibson. We've seen it happen before. It happened again. A veteran, I'm not saying getting in the Padres' heads, but messing up their game plan by offering tantalizing pitches that were good enough to swing at, but not good enough to crush. And I really think Padres fell into the honeypot, the trap that was laid by Gibson last night.
Yeah, he did a good job. He was able to keep himself in the zone. He was able to make pitches that, if you weren't going to swing at, they were going to be called strikes. You weren't going to get very many balls, if any. And so he did what he needed to do, and the Padres weren't able to capitalize on him.
Indeed. So tonight, what do you got for us tonight, Padres? Miles Mikolas is on the mound, and what we don't want is the resumption of last year's trend, which was pitcher comes in 8-1 with a 2.3 ERA, and the Padres are like, okay, we're locked in. We are ready to go. We've got the game plan. We're going to grind this guy down. We're going to take him out. And then the dude shows up with a 9.8 ERA, or tonight a 10 ERA, and the Padres go out and make him look like Cy Young. And it, through 5 shutout innings, 65 pitches, that type of thing. Padres need to drop the hammer tonight. This is one of those games. Your ace is on the mound. You're at home. You're coming off a loss. Drop the hammer on Miles Mikolas tonight.
Yeah, he definitely got beat up by the Dodgers. I think you've got to look at him and say, okay, didn't work out for us last night. Let's look at our approaches. Perhaps, there could have been a better approach for some of them in terms of waiting for a better pitch to get and to do some damage on. Again, it's a little bit harder with a guy like Gibson because, and it's not making excuses for them. I think that we agreed earlier in the show that the approach, maybe having a little bit more patience and some of those at-bats would have been better off and working that count a little bit more. But Miles Mikolas is beatable. And the Padres have a chance today to go out and do some damage, take the lead early, be aggressive, and hopefully also Yu Darvish, if he's able to, go a little bit deeper in the game and take some of the load off of the bullpen. It's going to be good if the bullpen, no matter how they're worked today and tomorrow, they've got a rest day on Thursday with the day off, but still, like, they're being worked quite a bit right now.
Yeah, it's time to get things kind of cinched up. We need to start to see 6 inning starts, victory formula relief, 3 guys for an inning each, not having Tom Cosgrove pitch every game or 5 of 7 games or whatever he's at right now. Just a ludicrous load. And I do believe that 7 games doesn't tell you anything in general. So if you came into the season believing that this team could pitch the ball and catch the ball, then that's just the place to stay, is that they're going to pitch the ball. They're going to catch the ball. Also, this is not a perfect team. And I don't think there's too many Padres fans who going into opening day thought that the Padres were a perfect team. So we're going to have nights like last night. We're going to have nights like Friday and Saturday night. And along the way, we're going to have games like Thursday and Sunday and hopefully tonight as well. I really do think we're going to spend most of the year right here. Game under, game over, 2 games over, 2 games under, right at 500, bouncing around, boom, 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 going over the rocky road in a very difficult competitive National League where even a team that you're not counting on, like Pittsburgh, is off to a good start. And at the end of the year, just like we thought, there'll be 6 or 7 teams within 2 or 3 games of one another. Like, this is a bunched up group. The Dodgers and the Braves are probably in a different tier. The Phillies, maybe. And then everyone else is kind of in a lump. It's like in the marathon when you see those 2 rabbits out in front and then you've got the pack. Like, the pack is going to stay together, I think, for a long time this year, Annie.
Yeah, and it's going to be on the Padres to change some of their narratives. I mean, it's not the end of the world if you're winning a game, losing a game, winning a game, losing a game, but you're going to want to string together some here. You're going to want to get to establish that. I know last year it was difficult for them to get on real winning streaks, and we're so early in the season right now. Like, you're not like necessarily looking for them to, string a whole bunch together. I think, again, like, you're looking more for trends more than you are even wins and losses right now, because it's so difficult to determine what exactly the wins and losses mean. So to hang on every single one of them, I think is probably going to drive you nuts. We used the example earlier today. The Pirates won their first 5. The first 5 games.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the end of the season, if they are headed to the World Series and the playoffs, I guess I will eat my words a little bit, but I have a feeling that they're not going to sustain that. And the Astros lost their first 4. And I have a feeling that you can't completely, erase them from the baseball landscape right now and toss them out and be like, that's it, they're going nowhere. So you've got to kind of look for just some things to improve, some winning on the margins, as they like to say, where are these incremental steps that they can take to be better. And there is a narrative around the Padres that they have to shake themselves, which is after a big day on offense, they tend to come out a little flat the next day. And I don't know that was the case last night because they were facing Gibson. I'm not sure that you could pin it all on that, but that is something that is going to be surrounding them until they shake it.
For the Padres to make the playoffs this year, they could play 500 baseball for 5.5 months. Not to say in a row, but all they need are 2 5-game winning streaks. 2 5-game winning streaks, play 500 baseball the rest of the year. And guess what? They finish with Annie's projected record, 86 and 76. That's literally all it takes, is for them to be good for a week, twice out of 26 weeks, without being terrible other weeks. Now, obviously, there's going to be losing weeks in the season, so it won't be a perfect fit where we won't go exactly 500 and have exactly 2 5-game win streaks. But it's a victory formula in the modern National League, is my point. You don't have to win every series. You just have to not sink into the mire.
You can't get too far behind. Baseball is amazing because even if you look at Mike Schultz Cardinals from the year that they won 17 straight. I mean, you heard Katie Woo this morning saying she had to change her vacation plans. There was not a single soul in September, probably besides that team, that was like, the Cardinals are going to make the postseason. They were 17 games out and they went on this improbable win streak to get into the postseason. And baseball is an incredible game because 2 weeks can change everything for you. 2 weeks can burst you into the postseason or take you right out of it. And if they can hold steady, like you said, and then you just don't want those 2 weeks to be bad, but steal a week here, steal a week there, then they're going to be okay. And that's just the way baseball goes. It's a weird game.
I just think in San Diego, we Padres fans, we beloved Friar faithful, we need to be patient this year. It's not like last year. Okay. I get it. I can just hear the vibes like coming back at me, ESP, empathy, whatever it is. Like, easy, you guys all told us last year, be patient. It's a long season. Don't worry. We've got a great team. We're going to get through it. We're going to show at the end. And then they never showed. Well, they did. They went 14-2 down the stretch. Unfortunately, they started off 11 games under 500 before they did that. And they wound up getting to 2 games over 500. Last year was incredibly frustrating. We're all emotionally wounded as Padres fans by what we went through last year. So it's so easy to fall into the mental trap of being, oh no, here we go again. This isn't last year's team. It's not the same team. This team is not expected to win 98 games and be a favorite in the National League or the second choice in the National League. This is a team that might win 85, that might win 86 games or fewer. So I think we need to kind of buckle up, like there's going to be bumps in the road.
No, I get what you're saying. I also wouldn't put a ceiling on them. Like, how do we know that this team won't go out and win 95 games? Like, we don't know, right? I mean, they could do that, even though on paper it might look like that's going to be a bit improbable, but they could. I mean, baseball is so weird. Like I'm saying, like, you just never know what's going to happen in a season. It does look right now like you're going to be fighting for one of those wild card spots, and there's going to be a lot of other teams fighting there with you that are pretty good this year or have made themselves better. And so, the hardest thing for them is if you drop, if you're 10 games down, or you're constantly trying to play catch up and depending on other teams in September. You never want to be in that position where you're depending on other teams in September to lose so that you can gain ground. Like, you hopefully want to be right there neck and neck, and then you be the aggressor.
Do you remember the in between innings game they used to have, Annie, where it'd be like, name this player, and it would start like a jigsaw puzzle and it would all be blurred, and then like one corner would clear up, and then another corner, right? And then over the course of a minute or two, you'd get enough of the picture and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's Travis Jankowski or whatever, right? Like, I think about the baseball season that way too. Like, every one of these teams at the end of the year, you're going to know what those teams were. And there's maybe a couple teams you can say, like the A's. You know what the A's are. The White Sox. You know what the White Sox are. Will they ever win a game? You don't even know. But like, you don't need the whole picture uncovered to know what's underneath there. But for teams like the Padres, this is where we are. We're at the point where that one little corner is now clear and everything else is covered up. And yet I can see folks in the chat being like, well, just can't accept the fact that we just have a terrible team. Like, you can't say anything after 7 games of a season about any team.
You have it's like you're 1 year old and you're trying, you don't know what your kid is going to be at 1 year old. What kind of personality will he or she have? What will they like? How will they grow up? What will they do when they grow up? Like, think of your season like that. Like, you are in the newborn phase. Pretty soon they're going to be little toddlers running around. And then I really want to run with this, but I see it going downhill really fast. But it's just, you're in the infancy of a season. You'll get hints. And then I know myself and so many others, it'll be like, well, it might be trending this way, but it's so hard to know because, again, in 2 weeks' time, things can really, really turn around for a team.
It's a recurring message. I hope it's a positive message for you and the fan base.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's fair to look at this team and say, okay, you have to show that you aren't the team from last year. And we've seen that a little bit to start the season, right? Or I would say maybe we've seen it more than we haven't, in terms of them fighting and them wanting to establish an identity that they're not just going to quit at any point in the game, or that they're going to be aggressive throughout games. And so it's fair to want to see that from the team. And I think that is kind of going to be the mystery that will unfold.
Indeed. It's a reminder on how a baseball season works. And, some of the oldest axioms, the old saws, are ones that bear repeating because people literally forget. Like, the best teams lose 50 games. Like, the very best teams still lose at least 50 games.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part if you're managing a team or you're involved in the front office is knowing when to pull what levers, because a big, we talk about 100 games in or 100 at bats, or 100 plate appearances to try to figure out like what a hitter is or what the team is. You're looking for those benchmarks. And so that is the thing. Like you want to be patient. You don't want to pull the plug too early on someone because you want to give them a chance to improve or get settled into the season, but then or get out of a slump. But then you also need to know, this just isn't working. And that little dance of like being patient, but also not letting things go on too long, that is very difficult to do. And that is why they get paid the big dollars to do it.
That's right. And, it's completely okay for any fan to spend money, go to a game, be disappointed with the result, be upset, say things, I don't believe it anymore, or this or that. This guy's got to go. That guy's got to go. But just remember, you're looking at one puzzle piece of a 162-piece puzzle that gets assembled over the course. We haven't even filled out the outside yet. We don't even have the frame. I always say, like 40 games. The 40-game mark is where you have the frame of the puzzle. Now, like you've got an idea, right? Like sometimes you really know. Other times you have no idea. And that's where we are right now with the Padres. Let's see if they can win tonight. Let's see if you can grab the baton and get this starting rotation rolling, relieve the bullpen, reset the guys in the back end.
Set the tone for this rotation.
And let's see if they win the series. We'll be chatting about it on the 97.3 round table Thursday morning at 10 with everybody at our station except Woodsy. He's got a medical appointment.
He'll be with us in spirit.
He'll be listening on his way to his appointment. We'll go through it. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep giving you the analysis. We'll be cutting edge on everything that's happening every game, but we're 7 games in, and I'm not willing to say anything at 3 and 4 of relevance or merit.
Tough to draw any conclusions at this point, but it is, you can definitely watch with a keen eye and see if some of those trends start to pan out.
Calvin says, after last year, we deserve to be impatient. Hey, the fan base is gonna make a decision about this team 40, 45 games in.
You fan however you want. I love it. Like what else? That's the fun of baseball, I think. You're going to live and die with these games. We're telling you, hey, be rational, whatever. You know what I mean? Right. Slow down, pump your brakes. But you know what? And Calvin in the chat is saying that they deserve to be impatient. Absolutely. Like if you get high, get low, whatever. Like I don't want to tell a fan how to fan because that is kind of the fun of it, right? Like it is kind of the fun it drives you crazy a little bit too, because I got to tell you guys, like, take care of your health on that, because you go so high and so low sometimes. But as long as you can, keep your blood pressure in a good place,
right? Don't have your liver
stay hydrated,
over impacted. Yeah. Don't get cirrhotic. Yeah, I agree.
Then I'm supporting you.
Hey, we're happy to engage in all discussion, rational or otherwise. I think you can tell where Annie and I land on this stuff. We've just been around a couple too many baseball seasons to flip out after 7. If there were 1 and 6, I would understand more of a flip out. It's 3 and 4. It's a game.
They could be the Astros right now.
Right.
Oh, and I'm not saying that some of these hot takes, that are slanted maybe a little bit more negative. I'm not even saying that they're not going to come true. They might come true. You might be right at the end of the day.
Sure.
But it's just hard to. I definitely, just like Craig, I wouldn't definitively say any of that.
Could be the Mets.
Right.
You could always be the Mets.
Now that's a team I'm willing to throw away too.
One of the most expensive teams in baseball. 0-5.
Speaking of teams that have it worse than us,
who's got it worse than us?
Nobody. Somebody.
That's right. The A's say that. Who's got it worse than us?
Nobody. I got into a conversation in the clubhouse. How is it? I know that we don't have time for this right now, but the A's being allowed to spend $45 million or whatever they spent.
Yeah.
It's criminal. There should be a salary floor.
What would be?
Should be a cap.
You should have to spend a certain amount of money, and if you're like, well, we can't profit, then you shouldn't own a baseball team.
You can't
figure out how to spend, at least 100 million or whatever, then you should not be able to afford to have a team. Like, can you imagine playing on the A's? I think it's bad enough to play on the Rockies. Like, you're looking at your career going, oh God, how am I going to get through this season? But to play on the A's,
those are guys that are just trying to get big league at bats, right?
Let me take it one step further as we go to break. Could you imagine playing for the A's and then getting demoted, benched, or sent to AAA because you supported the fans of the team with a wristband like this?
Wristband gate.
Story next. You do not want to miss this. Andy and Elsten on The Fan. have been prominent at these fan engagement moments for Oakland Athletics fans. So a couple of the A's players wore a wristband, just kind of like the one I'm wearing right now, one of these easy plastic wristbands.
Yeah, I got some.
Right?
I got 2.
Everyone's got them. Many people have, not everyone, but almost everyone has seen something like this, right? Worn something like this. So, just a classic green with yellow lettering wristband that says Last Dive Bar. And Brent Rooker, ex-Padre, has worn the Last Dive Bar wristband at batting practice in games. Brent Rooker, who led the A's in home runs last year, played a couple of games and then was benched by the A's in the middle of their first week. Another old friend, Estuary Ruiz, right? We traded Ruiz in the Josh Hader deal, and then he got moved from Milwaukee to Oakland in the William Contreras deal and started last year for the Oakland Athletics, was their everyday center fielder, stole however many bases he stole, 60, 70 bases. He's Estuary Ruiz. He got off to a great start for the A's in their first weekend of play. Hit .429 in his first week of baseball. Guess what? He did it wearing a Last Dive Bar wristband. And now Estuary Ruiz has been demoted to AAA. He has been assigned to AAA. Brent Rooker has been benched. Estuary Ruiz has been assigned to AAA. And pretty interesting, as this was, I sent you guys the tweet of the Foul Territory account on Twitter saying Estuary Ruiz, who hit .429 this past week, is being optioned to AAA. This is not an April Fool's joke. And right below it, there's Last Dive Bar in the replies with the pictures saying, we know why, not to mention Rooker benched. One has to wonder why. And they show the picture of Rooker with the wristband and then Ruiz with the wristband. And he says, we know why.
Yeah. And so Last Dive Bar sells sweatshirts, bracelets, these little bracelets that Craig is talking about, wristbands, sorry. They read like things like boycott or sell the team. There's different pro Oakland Coliseum and anti what's going on now, shirts and sweatshirts and things like that. And they do more than that. But apparently the Last Dive Bar, so there was 4 players, I guess, that were, they tweeted out 4 players wearing these wristbands. And Foul Territory, I saw the 2 that you sent as well. But then this was sent to me. Estuary Ruiz, right, demoted. Brent Rooker benched. Was he demoted too?
No, just benched.
Benched. Okay, Christian Pache.
Yeah, Christian Pache.
Pache traded. James Caprillion. Thank you. Caprillion. Released. So, I'm Craig. I can't sit here. I don't accurately know that this is why, but I don't know that it's not why either.
It's a believable. It's like, I don't want to believe it, but it's believable. It's one of those April Fool's jokes. You're like, that could technically happen, right? Like, I wouldn't put it past an organization like the Athletics to do something this petty.
This petty.
And don't they need these players?
Well, they don't need to win. They don't care. They'll win 40 games.
Are you going to mess with a guy's career like this? Although maybe it's better to be traded or released or whatever you are.
I don't think they care.
Think they care what those players are like?
I really don't think they care.
Adam in the chat, Adam Klug, Annie buying into the conspiracy. I will give you this one, Adam. I will let it fly with the Oakland A's.
It's very believable.
Happen.
It's very believable. I don't know why they just don't. Why don't they just forfeit their games? What a waste. What a waste of everybody's time this season is going to be for the A's.
Yeah.
They don't want to play.
Which one of these T-shirts should I buy? Because
you'll definitely wear one in here.
You could buy both of them and just wear them all.
We've got the Last Dive Bar T-shirt. We've got the one where John Fisher is the puppet master and Dave Cavall is their president, saying we are committed to the city of Oakland with the puppet strings. I don't know. Maybe I'll buy them both to support Last Dive Bar.
They're so this whole thing is. I'm watching the Chargers 2.0 right now with the A's. It's just way worse. And you know what?
Worse.
Good for Oakland fans because they got to learn from us Charger fans down here of, if you don't support the team, you're just buying into their narrative of what they want, right? They want nobody there because then they could go, look, Major League Baseball. They don't support us here. Let's go to Vegas where they're going to support us, which is the big knock that we had here as Charger fans was, oh, nobody supports they remember the last 2 years of Chargers football where the Chiefs took over the stadium and the team was terrible and everybody knew that they were leaving and they didn't want to support the organization anymore with their money. And so they walked at their wallet, and it just played right into Dean Spanos' hands of, look, nobody likes us here. Or we can't support a team here, yada, yada, yada. Give it to the A's fans. They're still showing up, and they're finding ways to support the team without supporting the team financially. I love the way that has been played out. And that makes the A's look worse and worse and worse with all of the things that Craig brought up before the beginning of this segment. On top of the fact that you cannot reply to their social media posts unless you're a verified account, that being on private is a joke, and them trying to bully their way with poor restaurants and bars and things that are sponsors and affiliates with the A's and not letting them participate with the fans. And this war against the fans, such a bad look for baseball. I find it very hard to sit here and deal with the hypocrisy of Major League Baseball. We want to grow the game. And then they have instances like this in Oakland. Major eye roll from us, major eyewash that we have to see with this team and this organization. It's really pathetic, and I'm tired of looking at it.
I got to go back and find it because the city of Oakland is engaging with the team. Here it is. I got it. So A's want to move into Vegas in 2028, right?
Correct.
Their lease at the Coliseum ends at the end of this season. So the next 3 seasons are up in the air. The city of Oakland has come up with a plan to keep them in Oakland for the next 3 years.
We preface this with, don't they need to stay in Oakland in order to get the TV contract money or something like that? Like if they...
In order to keep the deal with NBC.
Because they were going to move and just go to Salt Lake or whatever, right. I thought.
Yeah, but
now they're trying to stay in Oakland.
They need that NBC Sports San Francisco Bay Area contract to pay out. And the only way that they can pay out is if they stay in the Bay Area.
Right.
So this is out of Craig Calcaterra's Cup of Coffee newsletter. He says a report came out over the weekend detailing Oakland's latest offer to the Athletics for use of the building. The city is proposing a 5-year lease with an opt-out after 3, which would allow the A's to move to Vegas in 2028 if the stadium is done on time, but gives the team, which it probably won't be, but gives the team an option if construction is delayed or, if the whole deal falls through. The city is likewise dropping previous demands that for the team to stay, Major League Baseball must allow the city to retain the Athletics name and colors in Oakland and guarantee the city will get a future expansion team.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, they want a baseball expansion team?
Well, they originally were saying if you leave, we want to keep the name Oakland. We want to keep the name Athletics.
So you move and become the Las Vegas
Vegasy
Cards or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then when/if we get an expansion team, we get the A's back.
The Las Vegas Dice.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Las Vegas Card Sharks. Whatever you want.
I don't know that they're going to get this. I like where they're going with it. I think that.
Well, Craig said they just dropped that, right?
Okay.
They did. They
wanted that, and then they're like, "Well, that's not going to work, so we're going to drop it."
I mean, you aim high.
Here's what they did put in: a $97 million extension fee. $97 million for the A's to stay. Now, the A's currently pay $1.5 million in rent to play in the Coliseum. They offered a 2-year deal and payments of $7 and $10 million. The A's did. The city of Oakland offered a $97 million extension fee. Now, here's where Calcaterra figured it out. He says, in addition to that being a lot of money that John Fisher likely won't pay, there is a symbolic purpose to the precise total. It is the same amount as the reported gap between the city and the club for the aborted Howard Terminal Stadium project at the time the A's broke off negotiations. So it's personal.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
I like that pettiness.
Yeah.
Good for the city of Oakland. I'd be like, yeah, I want $1 billion for you to stay.
Yeah.
We'll play in Sacramento.
Oh, you want to stay? $97 million. Oh, do you remember that number?
Oh, now you have it? Now all of a sudden you have that money?
Yeah, I thought 97 million was one bridge too far. Well, how about 97 million?
It would be double their salary of their payroll.
We'll give it to you for 97 specifically. Also, Oakland demanding the team assume the costs of switching the Coliseum over when Oakland Roots SC plays. And they further want the team to execute the documents that will give their half interest in the Coliseum back to the city so it can be redeveloped after they leave.
Okay, I don't think this is going to happen.
No, it's not.
So what is the A's? But I like it. Hey, yeah, shoot your shot,
stick it to them.
Yeah, totally. But then what are they going to do? Like if they're going to try to stay in market.
What's going to happen is they've created the situation where the A's go, nah, we're going to go to Salt Lake City. And then the city of Oakland can go, look at these jerks. They want to play in a minor league park instead of playing here.
And they'll also lose that broadcast money.
I would ask
who's going to broadcast
I would if I'm the city, I'm asking for the $97 million, or I'm asking for the exact contract that NBC is giving the A's.
Right.
It's like, I'll take it.
Yeah. Whatever money they give you, we get it. And then you can have it.
Yeah. That's because at some point you got to ask for something where they're not making any money on the deal. And so they have to leave, and then they'd have to give up that contract. And then as bad as it is for teams that have good relationships with their cities for TV deals, Rangers, Padres, Diamondbacks, right? A lot of these teams that are financially having some issues with TV contracts, what are the A's going to be able to get?
Right.
Yeah.
They already don't have a radio deal. They're A's cast.
It's
only online.
For years now.
Have a
For
Jesse
years.
and Tony?
They do,
No.
but it's online. There's
it's like for 3 or 4 years. It's been.
right. There's no
Wait,
radio
they
station.
don't have a radio.
They don't.
No, they haven't had one.
Broadcast over the airwaves.
No, they haven't done that for years.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
For a few years now.
So what
That's
makes you think they're going to
crazy.
be able to broadcast television?
Right.
And here's what they're going to do. They're going to have to do that a la carte thing that the Padres are doing with just streaming only, and they'd have to charge people like $20 a month, and their fans are going to pay for that.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
At least they've managed to be petty and demote Estuary Ruiz and bench Brent Rooker for wearing a wristband. So,
I think they're trying to set a record for least attended regular season Major League Baseball game that did not involve COVID or the situation in Baltimore 5, 6, 7 years
try
ago.
and make us forget Donald Sterling is pretty much, or Dean Spanos is where John Fisher is right now. Maybe I can be the worst owner ever.
The worst owner in the history of owners.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have a short Ask Us Anything. If you want to dial in during the break, you've only got during the break to call. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Give us a buzz. If you do, please give us a question, because it's called Ask Us Anything. We'll be right back and wrap up Annie and Elsten on The Fan.
Well, we done did it to ourselves. We gave ourselves a 3-minute segment at the end of the show. So it's time to ask us anything. We don't even have time to hold for bumper. Let's just jump to the phones, 833-288-0973, and find out what Magic in San Diego would like to ask us. Magic, welcome to Annie and Elsten. Ask us anything.
How you doing, guys? Before I ask a question, just want to ask you, I sent a message for your an idea for your streaming segment on Thursday or Friday, and we came up with the name Stream Gems to try to keep it sports oriented.
Oh, okay. Like web gems.
Exactly right. The question I have to ask you guys, maybe I've missed it, but what are your guys' expectations for the Padres this year? I heard your segment earlier today, and I don't know if there's any doubt into you guys. I know it's still early, but what are you guys' expectations for the Padres this year? What would you accept?
Well, I know each one of us put up a win-loss total that we thought the team would hit, and I believe we went 85, Braden 84, and Annie 86.
Correct.
So we all expect this team to be a little bit over 500 is what we expect.
I expect them to make the playoffs in a wild card spot.
Yeah, it's going to be a battle, mate, but fighting for that 6th spot is, I think, our journey this year. I think that's what we're doing, is we're fighting for the 6th spot and maybe the 5 if we're lucky, and if we have a really good year. But in reality, the 3 division champs get spots 1, 2, 3, and the Phillies are going to get the 4th spot. Like, that's probably what's going to happen. It's baseball. Baseball's stupid. No one should watch. So anything could happen, but those are our expectations, Magic. Chris and Escondido, let's get your question in real quick, buddy, before we get out of here.
Thanks for taking my call. Actually, a better question for yesterday. But that being considered, if you guys hit the lottery tonight, so money is not an issue, where is your dream vacation taking you to?
Oh, wow.
Oh, I'm going to go on a yacht through the Mediterranean, the south of France. And then I'm going to go over to like Greece. Where else? Israel. I'm going to go everywhere.
Everywhere in the Mediterranean.
I'm going to go to Australia and New Zealand, and then carry from there to the Philippines.
Ooh.
That because that would be an incredible vacation to see some of the most beautiful spots on earth and my wife's home country.
I'm going to Italy.
Since my mom is listening, I'm going to take her too. I'll take my whole family.
You're so nice.
You won the lottery.
You did win the lottery. Yeah. That's fair. Chris, thanks for giving us those lottery winnings. Gwen and Chris are next on The Fan.